So you've been waiting for the Wortox, Walter, and Wendy update, have you, for their skill trees? Unlucky, it's still in beta, haha. But anyway, the video I made on these skill trees was a while ago, like when the beta first came out, and they have changed a few things since then. And it doesn't look like the update's coming out anytime soon because they're still discussing changes. They said they wanted to do some changes to Wobby's skill tree here, and they haven't done them yet. So I'm still guessing that there's going to be another beta update at some point before this hits live game. So I figured I'll do an updated version of the beta skill tree reviews. So we're going to start with Wortox, who I don't think has changed much, but I'm going to assume that you have no idea what I'm talking about. So I'm going to assume that you have seen my all character review, so you know what the base kit of all these characters do, and we're only going to talk about the skill trees. Alright, let's start left to right. So, Lifebringer 1. Learn to channel souls into a twin-tailed heart, a creation used to revive ghostly friends. This is pretty straightforward. It's a revive that only Wortox can make. It costs 10 souls to make, and then you give it to someone and they get revived. Wilson, no! Oh, goodness. And you give it to them and they get revived. And Insight will tell us. You can see his maximum health has been reduced. Thank you, Insight. So revives them to 2/3 hunger, half sanity, and 50 health, but receives the max health penalty. But then we have this skill, Lifebringer 2, which is same thing, except they don't get health penalty when you revive them. Put you through the torture chamber again, and then I revive him again, and this time his health doesn't go down. It stays at what it was before, which is 112.5 max. Cool. Alright, that's what that one does. And then I have to unlock stuff to get to this one. I'm just gonna unlock this so that I can unlock this skill. Hold on 1 second. Alright, there we go. So, Lifebringer 3, allow the twin-tailed heart to be used by another, which will pull them to you from near or afar. Using it yourself will free the souls inside. So now you can squeeze it, which will release the souls, which you don't need to do, or you can give it to someone. And as you can see, the twin-tailed heart, it takes 40 minutes. Oh wait, 80 minutes to spoil. 80 minutes to spoil. That is that's 10 days. 10 days for it to spoil. Cool. Okay, so top tier strategy. Always have a Mr. Mither on hand. Now simply, here you go, Mr. Mither. Have a heart. And then you squeeze that bad boy. Oh. Wow, isn't that cool? So it consumes the heart and it will teleport the player roughly where Wortox is, which is pretty neat. It is 10 souls, so it is quite expensive. And here, I'll give it to him again, and it can teleport you anywhere. I require backup. Oh, there he is. Teleported right to Lunar Island. So this is pretty neat. You can disperse these to your friends, and then you can teleport yourself across the map. And then, here, let me reveal the map. So you give your heart to your friends, and then you could just teleport across the map because you're Wortox. Oh yeah. And then all your friends can then follow you because they can squeeze the heart. It's kind of expensive, but whatever. It's pretty neat giving your friends teleportation. Quite cheap. Alright, so I reset the skill tree, and now we've done that branch. Now we're on to this one. So, Reaching Souls 1. Dropped souls will heal at an increased range. So as you can see, this is the normal range for healing. It's about an 8 wall unit radius around Wortox. 8 wall units about. But then we can unlock the next skill. Drop souls will heal at an increased range from Reaching Souls 1. Look at that, and that's our new range. Now we're at 12 wall units, so we've gone from 2 tile radius to a 3 tile radius, so a 50% increase in the radius of healing, which is, that's pretty big. It's quite a big healing radius increase. Souls will come to you faster. Drop souls will heal at an increased range again. So this is how fast souls usually come to you. Pretty fast, faster than your walking speed at least. But then after we unlock this skill, you can see they zip towards you, so they just hit your inventory way faster, which just means you have access to your souls faster because you're playing a support role kind of thing. So that's whatever. But then you have an increased range again for the healing. Now, what is the range now? Now the range is like 15 wall units? Yeah, 15 wall units. So we went from 8 to 12 to 15, so the last upgrade is not quite another tile radius, but almost there. 15 wall units is just under 4 tiles, just under 4 tiles. Now we want to unlock Soul Bastion 1. I need to unlock some more skills to unlock the next skill. Okay, cool. Alright, Soul Bastion 1. Drop souls will do a second healing wave for a low amount after a delay. So Wilson is at 110 health. I drop and I do 20 healing and then an extra 10 healing. You can see the little soul left there on the floor, so the distance doesn't matter anymore. But if I drop this, 20 healing, and then see this little soul? It sits there and then it does an extra 10 healing. So all of your souls effectively heal 50% more now, but like your teammates have to stand still, well, stand nearby that second soul for them to get the healing. So it's a nice bonus. 50% extra healing, pretty good. Then we have reduced the delay for the second healing wave to happen, and then souls are more efficient at healing multiple players. So now we do that heal, and then so now the second round of healing is just reduced a little bit, like the delay is reduced a little bit, so that's cool. It means the healing will hit your friends faster. To explain the second part of the kit, I'm going to need to spawn some more Wilsons. So if you didn't know, by default, when you heal multiple friendly people, your souls will heal all of them, but they all receive slightly less healing than they would if they got healed individually. So when I drop a soul now, it will do 19 healing. If I didn't have this skill enabled, it would have done 18 healing on each of the characters here. And for every character that you heal, the amount of healing on each individual character goes down, but your overall healing, it goes up because you're healing multiple people. So this just reduces the scaling on that part of the default part of Wortox's kit. So that's pretty neat. It just means you heal more. Cool. Moving on to the next bit. Moving on to Lifted Spirits 1. Souls waiting to be freed in a Soul Echo will enhance your movement speed. So let me just explain what a Soul Echo is in case you don't know. So with after Wortox's release, but before his skill tree, they added a few changes such that he can teleport across the map by clicking on the map, and they added Soul Echoes. So when you soul hop, you can see there's a little duration on your souls there. That is what a Soul Echo is. So what it means is the soul doesn't get consumed, and you can get another free teleport. That's what a Soul Echo is. If you don't consume it, nothing bad happens. You just miss out on a free teleport. So that's what the Soul Echo is. It's a small window of time where you can get a free teleport. So now what it says is souls waiting to be freed in a Soul Echo will enhance your movement speed. That is to say, with this unlocked and you soul hop, your movement speed is increased a little bit. You can see with the graphic because you've got like red leaking out of you. So if you don't use the echo, you move slightly faster. Now in practicality, you'll see the skills later. You probably won't be using this skill all that much because rather than just running faster, you could soul hop and then just soul echo again, which yeah, it's faster moving by double teleporting. What the hell? Is this a pig and a merm making out? What the hell? Anyway, moving on. Next we have soul echo duration is increased. So we just explained what a soul echo is. So now when you soul echo, you can see the green timer takes a lot longer to run out. This gives you more time to use the teleport or more movement speed increase. So this is just good. It means soul echoes last longer, so you're not quite as rushed. Anyway, next is reverberation. Soul echo will happen a second time. This does not decrease the soul hop costs from the map. This skill is sick, and I just something unlocked up here. I'll explain what these do once we're done with the nice section. So now when you soul hop, there's the one echo, so let me consume that echo, and then it refreshes and I have another echo, so I can teleport again. So now for every time you soul hop, so spend a soul, you will get 2 soul echoes. So now, like in the early game, you start with like 6 souls. If you don't have a part of the map mapped out, so you can't actually teleport, I can't teleport over here because I haven't got it mapped out, just simply, you just do that, then you echo again, then you echo again. And look how much map I just jumped through. I just jumped through like 2 or 3 screens worth of map with just 1 soul. So exploring is very cheap. So with 2 souls, I just explored all of this. So you know what I'm saying? The soul echoes are pretty good. As for soul efficiency, with reverberation enabled, it's you get more travel distance if you soul hop and then double echo like this, rather than just teleporting across the map. As you see, if I tried to teleport back from where I came from, it would cost me it would cost me 2 souls. Whereas to teleport over here cost me only 1 soul because I got 2 soul echoes. So yeah, except with the next skill. Next skill is called Capricious Movement. Soul hop cost from the map will be reduced by how much of the current world's land has been explored. So what this skill does, teleporting from the Pleasant Portrait and Wilson to this sinkhole will cost me almost 3 souls. So we're going to just say 3 souls. We're going to teleport just past the sinkhole. Kabam. Like that. Wow. But now I'm going to unlock this skill, the Capricious Movement, so it reduces the cost depending on how much of the current world's land has been explored. And then I'm going to reveal the map for myself. So now that I've revealed the whole map, how much will it cost to teleport from Wilson and the portrait to the sinkhole again? Oh my goodness. 2 souls. Not 3 souls, but 2 souls now. So because I revealed all the map, the soul cost has been reduced quite significantly. When it says explored the world's land, it means the land, not the ocean. So even if you had none of the ocean explored, as long as you had all of the land explored, you would get the maximum discount on the teleports. So this is good. It just means you'll save a bunch of souls if you're teleporting across the map. But now, what is more efficient, teleporting across the map or soul echoing? Well, let's try. So I'm going to stand at this sinkhole directly, and then I'm going to soul echo this way. So that's 1 hop and 2 echoes, right? So that's 1 soul I just consumed. To teleport back to the sinkhole now, it still costs 1 soul. So now, once you have the map explored, basically, as you can see, I could have teleported further with 1 soul if I used the map hop. You see, I can teleport back to the sinkhole within 1 Wortox soul cost. So yeah, once you've got the map explored, it doesn't make a difference if you echo or you map. In fact, mapping is better because it's faster and you can travel a little bit further for 1 soul. So these skills are very good. So now, as you saw earlier, as I was unlocking skills here, this unlocked. As I was unlocking skills here, this unlocked here. The nice inclination. This says your kindness has made your monster side no longer stir up trouble. Eating or releasing souls will change sanity at an increased amount. So I need to explain what this is. So this is the nice side of the skill tree, this is the naughty side of the skill tree, and this is the neutral side of the skill tree here. Depending on which skills you choose, if you choose more nice skills than naughty skills, you gain points towards nice, and if for example, these are all naughty skills, so let me just quickly unlock them. You can see, because I unlocked some naughty skills, it takes away from my nice skills, right? But then if I unlock more nice skills, it goes back up. So having 3 more nice skills than naughty skills means you will get the nice inclination. Now, what does the nice inclination actually do? Your kindness has made your monster side no longer stir up trouble. So, if you didn't know, pigmen and other creatures of the constant would be aggressive against Wortox. But now, pigs don't care. Pigs will ignore you. They'll be neutral to you like they would against normal characters like Wilson over here. So he's not going to attack you automatically. That's cool. And then you have eating or releasing souls will change sanity at an increased amount. By default, if you didn't know, when you eat a soul, it reduces your sanity. But now it reduces it even more. So it used to be -5, now it's -10. So you might think that's like a bad thing, right? But the trade-off is, when I drop a soul to heal, my sanity goes up by 5. And just to clarify, without the nice inclination, your sanity, I believe, goes up by 2.5 each time you drop one. You know what, let's just talk about the naughty inclination, because we're about to go to the naughty side in a second. So naughty inclination says your greed stops you from overloading of soul power for a moment, and eating or releasing souls will no longer change sanity. Souls heal you for less. So your greed stops you from overloading for souls for a moment. So let me just quickly unlock 3 naughty skills. So I have the naughty inclination. Oh no, I missed a mythic left. So if you didn't know, Wortox can only hold 20 souls at a time before the skill tree, and so if you try to grab more souls than that, this is what would happen. There you go. Oh no, I have more than 20 souls. As you can see, souls are leaking out of me, and after a long delay, a really long delay, you drop half your souls and you lose a bunch of sanity. Without the naughty inclination, all of that instantly happens. So let me show you. Oh goodness, more Deerclopses. As you can see, as soon as I went over 20 souls, they got instantly dropped. So without the naughty inclination, if you go over your soul limit of 20, you instantly drop them, instantly lose a bunch of sanity, and yeah. So with the naughty inclination, you basically just have more time to realize that you're overloading in souls, so you can drop them or whatever. Then the second part is eating or releasing souls will no longer heal or no longer change your sanity. So now when you eat souls for hunger, it doesn't make your sanity go down, but also when you drop souls to heal, it doesn't make your sanity go up. So honestly, I don't think this is really a downside, to be honest. It is cool to be able to change your sanity just by abusing souls, but yeah, you lose that with the naughty inclination. Then also, souls heal you for less. So now instead of healing you for 20, they heal you for 15. Now that healing reduction doesn't get applied to other players. So as we can see here, we just drop another meteor on Mr. Wilson. I get healed for 13.5 and Wilson gets healed for 18. So that's my 15 that I would be getting, but it gets reduced a bit because a second person is benefiting. So that the naughty inclination healing negative only applies to you and not your teammates. So that's neat. Anyway, that's what the naughty inclination does. So let's move on to neutral skills. So these skills don't push you towards the nice or the naughty inclination. So first you have improv Prompt 2, Flautist. You periodically feel a musical pull to play your flute. Pan flutes will not lose durability one time when feeling this urge to play. So I thought this was kind of a gimmick, but then I have played a Wortox boss rush, by the way, no spoilers, and this is actually a really good skill because, so after about one day, Wortox will say something about blowing his flute or whatever, and you'll get this little icon on your pan flute, where there's little musical signs. So if you blow it, it doesn't consume a use, and you gain a little bit of sanity. Cool. Now, I believe this cooldown is like once per day, so it's like about an 8-minute cooldown, but I'm not entirely sure about that. So that's a cool skill, but it gets even better when you pair it with this skill. Pleasant Pastoral. Playing your pan flute with such pleasing notes will bring lost souls around for a listen. So what this does, when you blow the pan flute, you will get 6 souls. 6 souls will just spawn around you and then come to you. Now, as you can see, even though I didn't have the musical notes, I still get souls. So whether you're playing the pan flute because of this skill, or because you're just playing it and actually consuming a use, you will always get 6 souls. This means you can basically store pan flutes with souls. So if I skip again, you can see I've got the musical notes again, and I play them, gain a bit of sanity, but I was full sanity, doesn't consume use, and you get 3 souls. What this basically boils down to is you probably will have these skills unlocked in the early game, not in the late game, and it will just mean you're carrying around a pan flute, because pan flute is pretty handy, but that's just like backup souls. If you're in a desperate situation where you run out of souls, you can just blow your pan flute to get 6 souls and then teleport away. So these skills together are very good. The next skill is called Cloudy Carmen. Things waking up after your pan flute playing will not be able to become hostile towards you for a moment. This is honestly kind of whatever. So if I spawn some spiders, I attack one, then I blow the pan flute. So they were all aggroed onto me because I attacked them, but then I put them to sleep. So with this skill enabled, when they wake up, they shouldn't become hostile towards me. As you see, they've woken up and they're not attacking me. And they're still not attacking me. Oh, but now they are. If you're pan fluting things to get away from you, you'll probably just teleport away and you'll be long gone before they wake up. So, yeah, this skill, I don't think is very good. But these 2 skills are very good. These 2 together are very good skills. Yes, yes. Now, I'm going to leave the affinities till last because that'll make sense later. But, yeah. Anyway, moving on. We have a knapsacker. You've hung around Krampus enough to create a knapsack for your own item stealing desires. Packs a punch depending on how full your inventory is. So crafting this is extremely cheap. It costs 4 souls and 2 silk. But of course, I'm going to cheat. So I've spawned a dummy target here from the training dummy mod, so it shows me damage and DPS and stuff. So the knapsack, very cheap, but when I attack with it, only 13 damage. What is this garbage? My DPS is so bad. But if we read again, it says, packs a punch depending on how full your inventory is. So if you watch the knapsack carefully, as I fill up my inventory with grass, oh, it got bigger again. So when I've consumed 6 of my inventory spaces, it now deals 23.8 damage. Then if I fill it up a little bit more, oh, there we go. So with only 4 inventory spaces left, so you've consumed 11 of your inventory spaces, you have reached the maximum damage of 34. Now that is not amazing. And also, I made a backpack here to say that even if your backpack is empty, the knapsack damage doesn't scale with your backpack. So it only cares about how much space has been taken in your inventory. So you could have an empty Krampus sack and it wouldn't like reduce your damage or anything. So even if I fill up my inventory all the way, I'm still only doing 34 damage. So if you're going to use the knapsack, you want to have 4 empty inventory slots at the most, and the rest of your inventory has to be filled up. But 34 damage is not very good. That's only as good as a spear. So let's move on to the next skill. Learn how to craft and use a soul jar to store souls for later use. Soul jars will leak souls over time and when not in your inventory. So now in the Wortox tab, you've unlocked the soul jar. It requires an empty bottle, 2 marble, and a red gem. So this means you can't get them all too fast because of how bottles spawn. The TLDR is a few bottles spawn in the ocean randomly when the world starts or around the coast. And then while you're on the ocean, a bottle will try to spawn every minute until it spawns, and it goes on like a 15-minute cooldown. But you might miss it because it will always spawn like 10 tiles away from you. This is all to say you'll get a bottle on like day 3, and then like 3 days days after that if you're really good at hunting bottles. Anyway, so once you've got the bottle, marble, and red gem, you can make yourself the soul jar. And in it, you can only store souls. So if I just use some souls on it, it gets stored in there, and there they go. They're inside the soul jar now. Now, the soul jar can store up to 40 souls. That's right, 40 souls. So bam, there you go, all 40 souls in there. And this doesn't affect the limit in your inventory. So I can still hold 20 souls in my inventory and then have a jar full of souls. That is very cool. So now if you're teleporting across the map, you don't have to rely on just the 20 souls you can hold, because you can just go and withdraw some souls from here. Now, this is quite smart. If your soul limit has been reached in your inventory, it won't let you withdraw any because you'll just instantly overload. So it is pretty smart like that. But again, say, oh my goodness, I need to teleport to Pearl's Island. Hello, Pearl. And then, oh, I need to teleport back. Oh wait, I need to teleport to Pearl's Island again. Oh no, I don't have enough souls to teleport to Pearl's Island. Don't worry about it. Rather than going and hunting, oh goodness pig, rather than going and get more souls, you can just withdraw some out of your soul jar and then continue on your journey. So yeah, pretty neat. So for now, what these soul jars do for you is you can make multiple of them and go on like one massive soul farming session, killing lots of killer bees, spiders, and fill up with like hundreds of souls with like 3 soul jars, and then you just leave, and then you don't have to come back and farm souls for a very long time. Let's stay on Pearl's Island. It's very, very cozy here. Now, let's read Overflowing Greed. Holding soul jars increases your maximum souls allowed to be held at once by 5 each, stopping you from overloading of soul power. So what this does is, even if the soul jar is empty, you can now hold 5 extra souls in your inventory for every soul jar that you're holding. And of course, I unlocked the naughty inclination, so now I can overload in souls for a small amount of time. So like, I've got 30 souls, so I should be overloading, but then I can just drop them because of the naughty inclination. And now I'm at 25 souls. Because I have a soul jar, I can hold 25 souls. And you can take this further and just make yourself more soul jars, and then you just increase your soul limit. So now I can hold 35 souls without dropping them. But where it gets extra good is once you get your 4th soul jar. Once you've got your 4th soul jar, you can hold 40 souls, and then what you can do, as long as your inventory is full, if you get more souls from anything, you can't actually overload, because the actual limit for the stacks of the souls is 40. You cannot hold more than 40. So now, if I spawn a bunch of spiders, and then we meteor them, all the souls come back to me, but as you can see, I don't overload, I just instantly drop them. This is really good for fights like the Fuel Weaver fight, because before, to automatically drop souls, you had to just do this. You had to have your inventory full so that you physically could not put souls into your inventory. But since the actual stack limit is 40, your inventory is still full even though you have souls in your inventory. So yeah, now you'll catch any souls up to 40, but then after that they'll get automatically dropped. This is great for fights like the Ancient Fuel Weaver fight, because the minions will drop a ton of souls and you won't overload, so you don't have to worry about it. So yeah, in reality, your maximum you'll want four jars, but 1 is cool, 2 is nice, 3 is plenty, but you probably will never need 4. Moving on to the next skill. This one says Covetous Collector. Held souls and souls inside of soul jars increase both the damage of the knapsack and the damage of souls, up to 100 total souls collected. We haven't covered soul damage yet, but we'll talk about knapsack now. So up to 100 total souls collected. So if we unlock this and we fill up this soul jar, and then we're going to fill up this soul jar, so that's 2 soul jars with 40 souls in each of them, then I'm holding 20 souls. 68 damage. So, with a combination of filling up your inventory so that you only have 4 spaces left, and holding 80 souls, your knapsack will do 68 damage. Now this scales, so if you have less than 100 souls, so now I have 95 souls, I deal 68 damage. Wait, what? The dropper just a few more souls? Still dealing. Am I dumb? Oh, that's interesting. Didn't update. But what's interesting that I just found out literally just now is I'm now holding 100 souls, but the damage has not updated. I'm still doing 62.9 damage, which is the damage I did when I was holding less than 100 souls. But if I equip the knapsack, then equip it again, I go back up to 68 damage. So that's cool. What this basically boils down to is this weapon, it does dark sword damage at its best, and it has 200 uses. Look at that. So it's a dark sword which lasts twice as long, and it's really cheap to make, costing 2 silk and 4 souls. So basically just 2 silk. Moving on to Soul Thief 1. I'm going to keep these unlocked because I need them unlocked to unlock this. Soul Thief 1 says souls are created and attracted to you from further away. So by default, There you go, that's about the distance of the souls. These guys didn't generate souls, but these guys did. But now with the skill unlocked, those guys generated souls. So it increases it by probably about 50%. I don't know, not a huge deal. It's very rare that you're killing things off screen such that this skill would actually make a big deal. But now souls are attracted to you from a bigger distance. So you don't have to get as close for the souls to come towards you, which is neat. On to Soul Thief 2. Souls will last longer while being attracted to you. So by default, when you kill something and it drops a soul, that soul, if you ran faster than the soul, it would eventually time out and it would stop trying to chase you. But with this skill, it will just chase you for longer. So if you have lots of speed bonus, it will have more chance of getting to you. So yeah, you won't lose out on it, probably. Next we have Soul Pierce 1. Souls attracted to you will hurt other creatures with souls along its path. This skill is really fun. So if I killed this spider here, he drops soul. As the soul travels to me, it deals damage to other spiders. See that? It just dealt some damage to them. Isn't that cool? And if we recall, if we read this skill, it says that the damage of souls also increases up to you holding 100 souls. So let me just spawn just a few spiders. I poked one, so now you can see the souls doing 31 damage. So it went from 20 something damage to 30 something damage now that I'm holding over 100 souls. Next we have Soul Pierce 2. Souls attracted to you will repel away initially before coming back towards you. Now this is the icing on the cupcake, you know what I'm saying. So if I spawn a few more spiders, not gonna quite do 100, we'll do 20. So now when I poke a spider, the soul, as you saw, it went away from me and then came back. This is kind of a big deal because it kind of goes through all the enemies, then comes back through them. Now, why is this useful? Well, it's because it makes farming souls super easy. Because as soon as you get enough soul damage, everything just kind of starts dying. And once everything starts dying, more souls start coming out, and that means you do more damage because of the soul repelling and such. Oh look, a killer bee biome over here, that's convenient. So if you wanted to farm a bunch of souls, what you would do is you would go to like a killer bee biome, collect a bunch of bees to follow you, and then you just start killing them. You kill like 1 or 2 of them, and the soul repelling will do all the work for you basically. As soon as they all start dying, the souls start repelling, doing damage, and it just kills the rest of them. And then as more of them die, you get more and more souls. And so you can see how you could quite easily farm hundreds of souls for all of your soul jars at a time. Yeah, so that's why those skills are very good indeed. Now we're moving on to Soul Decoy. Soul Decoy says that soul hopping for the first hop leaves behind a soul decoy to draw the attention of nearby creatures with souls targeting you. Then I will spawn a spider. Hello spider. Punch. So no, he's attacking me. Now, if I soul hop, it leaves a fake Wortox and the creature is attracted to that fake Wortox. Now it's worth saying that the soul decoy will only happen when you do a soul hop, not a soul echo. So for example, I punch, I soul hop here, then I echo and I soul hop again, and it creates another one. So as you can see, your soul decoy will get attacked, or when you create a new one, it gets rid of the old one. The old one just expires. When they first released the beta, this skill was not too good because the taunting effect didn't really work all that well. But now we'll see that I punched all these spiders. So I'm gonna gather them up in a group, then I soul hop. You can see all of them get attracted to the decoy. Before it used to like not be like that. Only like one of them would be attracted to the decoy, but now it is everything gets attracted to the decoy. This is a big deal for the next few skills. Next is soul decoys stay around for a bit longer if they are unharmed. This doesn't really matter too much. Usually if you're teleporting, the soul decoy will be like attacked pretty immediately, and either way it will still expire. So let's unlock this. You can see as soon as I create a second soul decoy, the first one expires and disappears. So now we have soul decoy 3. Soul decoy 3 says soul decoys will now explode and inflict damage on things lured by it or attacking you upon expiration. Now this is why the skill is really good. So you've got 10 spiders, they're all angry at you, then you teleport away. They all go for it, they attack, and it explodes and deals 51 damage. That is very good. Then you can just repeatedly do it, and they die. Wow. And it has a pretty decent area effect. But now, what if we paired this soul decoy, dealing 51 damage area effect, with soul pierce? And then, you know what, let's pair it with the increased damage for the souls to do increased damage. Now, you have unlocked the ultimate way to farm everything. Because you can decoy to make them pop, and then as soon as that pops, it deals damage, they die, the souls start coming to you, and the souls kill more things, and those souls start coming to you, then more souls come to you, and as you can see, that's that's basically how you'll end up farming tons of souls. Yeah. The soul decoy will do a lot of damage, and everything dies. So yeah, soul pierce plus soul decoy is insanely good at farming souls. In the end game, you will have soul decoy and soul pierce unlocked. Even in the early game, you might go for soul decoy. But anyway, now let's talk about the affinities, and then I'll do a recommended skill tree, and then we'll move on to the next character. So for the affinities, we have Lunar Swindler and we have Shadow Harvester. The Cryptic Founder will reward your curiosity by showing you power from wearing a Brightshade helm or Brightshade armor. Souls waiting to be freed in a Soul Echo will absorb the incoming damage and expire the timer. So there's quite a lot of interactions that I have to explain here. So the affinities do count as neutral skills, by the way, for the inclinations. I'll wear the Brightshade armor for the sake of this, but let me show you what it does. So now, instead of having a Soul Echo left over, so basically your Soul Echo will just get consumed and prevent any damage, and it will prevent any like stagger, and your armor does not take a durability hit. But if you recall, Reverberation is really good. So if we just unlock Reverberation, which if you recall, it just gives you a second Soul Echo, what does that do with this skill? Well, it's really good. If I Soul Hop, then Deerclops will attack. That's the first echo, gets consumed, but then the second echo starts. So you actually get 2 bouts of immunity, preventing any damage and stuff. So this skill is really good if you're like not super confident with using the Shadow affinity, which I'll show in a second. Then this affinity is pretty darn good. Although I will say, if you mess up the iframing, as you can see there, I messed up the iframing, so the first echo got instantly consumed. So yeah, if I mess up the iframing again, there we go. So I teleported, messed up the iframing, and that echo instantly got consumed. So if you're bad at invulnerability framing using the teleport, which if you didn't know, when Wortox teleports, he gets a ton of invulnerability frames. So as long as you time it right, you're invulnerable during your teleport. And then for the next 2 hits, you can just tank them rather than iframing them. So there I did it correctly. I iframed 1 attack, and now the next 2 attacks will get absorbed by my soul echoes. So that's what that skill does. It's really good, but the Shadow affinity is like better as long as you can execute it correctly. It is worth noting that if you soul hop the Nightmare Werepig, he does a knockback attack. As you can see, it does prevent the damage and all that with the Soul Echo, but it doesn't prevent the knockback, which kind of makes it a bit redundant. Because the reason why you would want to have this skill is so that you don't have to kite to increase your damage per second. But if it doesn't prevent the knockback, it doesn't increase your damage per second because you're being knocked back. What this means in practice is you will specifically take hits so that you can increase your damage. So I framed his swipe there, then I can just hold F and I can just keep swiping, so I don't have to dodge these next 2 attacks because the echoes will absorb the attacks. But what does the Shadow affinity do then if Jakey says Shadow affinity is better? Well, Shadow Harvester says the Queen will reward your loyalty by unlocking power from wielding a Shadow Reaper. Souls waiting to be freed in a Soul Echo will cause damage dealt to spread out to close enemies or hit 1 target twice and expire the timer. So again, this also revolves around Soul Echoes, so I'm gonna unlock Reverberation because Reverberation like just directly buffs this skill. So before you required Brightshade armor, but now you just need the Shadow Reaper. So as long as you're wearing the Shadow Reaper, you get the buff. Now this is such a good skill, I have to just show it. So imagine, oh no, there's a bunch of killer bees, they're all trying to fight me. Now if I soul hop away, I can consume the Soul Echo and do 2 big AoE hits. That's amazing. So when you soul hop away, your Soul Echo will be consumed when you attack, by either doing area of effects damage in the small area where you hit, or it will do 2 hits twice. Bam, bam. So yeah, area of effect damage is pretty good, so that's already really good. But then what if you're just fighting a single target? Bam! It just does the damage twice. So I go from doing 56 damage to 112 damage. So now it's pretty good damage just to continuously soul hop to get double damage on your next 2 attacks, because when you consume the echo. Oh my goodness, I messed it up there. So you might think, that didn't seem that insane. But what if I pair that with all of the other skills? Prepare yourself for some insanity. So now I've unlocked this damage increase, soul pierce, soul decoy, and the affinity. Please avert your eyes if you don't like Wortox, because I'm about to show you how powerful this bad boy can be. So Bee Queen is a pretty hard boss fight, right? Surely all these skills won't be enough to kill Bee Queen, surely. As you can see, her minions instantly dead. Bee Queen's constantly going for the decoys, and I am just winning. I am just immune from everything. And I either do AoE against the Grumblebees, or I do extra damage versus Bee Queen. As you can see, I'm here doing 177 damage. So you just iframe her attack, and then you simply soul hop everywhere. You're soul hopping all over Bee Queen. She is very upset. So yeah, combining all these skills is just ridiculous. What if we just spawn mutated Verger though? So we simply teleport behind him, do a double hit, then teleport again, and then we get the planar hit on him. My goodness, it's so easy. My goodness, these iframes are beautiful. As you can see, like, you literally just laugh over all of the bosses. Like, they're just so easy, dude. Now, the important thing to note there is it's a pretty tight window, because when you teleport, you have to consume those 2 soul echoes by doing 2 attacks before teleporting again. If you only do 1 attack and then you consume a soul echo to teleport, it doesn't refresh the echoes, so like you don't get the buffs for the next 2 attacks. So all that looks pretty fast and sleek, but you do have to actually land those 2 attacks before teleporting again, so it's a pretty tight window. But anyway, yeah, Wortox is basically unstoppable once he has all of his gear, which basically boils down to kill Agent Fuelweaver and then you win the game. But I'm not going to spoil you too much, because I'll do Wortox boss rush when this skill tree hits the live game. As for recommended skill tree, basically, okay, so if you're playing in a team, the reviving and teleporting is quite nice. I'd probably go for Lifebringer. You don't have to get these skills, but it just makes your souls heal for more. But you could just go maximum support, go for the defensive affinity, and like you'd probably just do something like that. This is for ultra support, but I wouldn't do that. For me, this is what I'll be doing. In the early game, you won't be able to use either of these affinities. You just want the damage bonus you get from having them. So maybe Shadow Affinity for killing Celestial Champion and Crab King a little bit faster. Start with over here. Reverberation is insane, regardless if you use the affinities or not, and Capricus movement. So definitely, I'll always unlock these. Always unlock these. These are really good. In the early game, these 2 Panflute skills will save you quite a bit. I was surprised how much they save you, so definitely unlock these in the early game. Then Knapsack is a really cheap dark sword, so that's also good. And then I would put the rest into Soul Pierce. Soul Pierce is just for like farming souls. You could go for Decoy instead, but then you lose out on Soul Pierce. I think Soul Pierce is much nicer. Before you've killed like Fuelweaver, before you've unlocked these Shadow Rifts. Once you've unlocked Shadow Rifts, the tree changes quite a bit. So you still unlock all of this. This is all really good stuff. You go for Shadow Affinity again. Now you probably don't need the Panflute, and you don't need the Knapsack buff skill. You just want the Soul Jars, and that gives you enough points to unlock all of the Decoy skills and all of the Soul Pierce skills. So once you've unlocked the Rifts, definitely go for this tree. It gives you Soul Jars, increased amount of Souls holding, and yeah, this is a really good tree. The Soul Decoy plus Soul Pierce plus the Soul Echoes that give this lot more damage. It's just so good. It works so good. Once you play it and you start iframing attacks, it's beautiful. I can't explain. It's just so amazing. It's beautiful. Wortox is so good. Anyway, this is Wortox's recommended skill tree. Now, let's move on to Walter. Gamers, Walter. So just for background, I have done a Walter boss rush on the beta, so I do understand his kit quite a lot, just like Wortox. I know it in and out basically. So let's go. So we'll go over all of the ammos first, because that's the simplest thing. So again, I assume that you know all of the base stuff of Walter, so you've watched my all character review video. So then we're just going to talk about purely the skill tree. In the ammo section, you can unlock new bits of ammo. So first you have sticky rounds. This is learn to craft sticky rounds, and ammo made of honey that slightly slows down creatures. And bam, there it is. Doesn't require any science, requires 1 honey. So let me just mix some, and you get 20 honey nuggets per one. And now let's spawn a pigman, 2 pigmen in fact. So I'm going to shoot both of them, and then I'm going to slow one of them down. So I'm just going to line them up, and then I'm going to shoot one of them honey. So you can see how much slower he's moving. Line them both up. Once they both start running back to me, then I will shoot them with honey. Hoo-yah! See how much slower he goes. Quite a bit slower. It doesn't last all that long though. I believe it only lasts for about 8 seconds. So the thing with Walter is that you want to keep things away from you so that you can actually range them for a decent amount of time. So the the sticky rounds almost do that. They just don't last very long and they don't slow the enemy down as much as you would like. So for example, if you're fighting Bee Queen using ranged combat, which you would as Walter, you want to keep her away from you so that you can actually range her without kiting constantly. So I've slowed her down with honey stuff, but she still moves pretty fast. Oh hey, I don't think it works on flying enemies. Oh, it doesn't work on flying enemies, huh? If you're fighting him, you stand away and I'll be able to get 3... I got like 3 shots off before I had to move away again. So with honey rounds, you can reduce that because you slow them down a bit and then I can get off 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, I got 1 extra shot off because of the honey rounds. Point is, you want to keep the enemies away from you while you're shooting, and the honey rounds kind of do that, but as you'll see, there will be a lot better alternatives to honey rounds later, but for now I would probably skip these, but let's move on. Stinger rounds. Learn to craft stinger rounds, an ammo made of stingers that does damage in a small area when hitting a creature. Now this is really good because it's area of effect damage. Costing 2 stingers, you can make 20 stinger rounds. These stinger rounds deal, kabam, 25.5 damage, and they do 17 area effect damage around your primary target. This is really good. This is such cheap early game ammo, and it does area of effect, which is, yeah, really good. The single target damage isn't that good, but as long as you're fighting 2 or 3 targets, the overall damage is actually quite good. So nothing really to say there other than if you need area of effect damage and not single target damage, stinger rounds are decent, but as I'll talk about in a second, there are better alternatives to stingers. So next we'll talk about shock scrap rounds. Learn to craft shock scrap rounds, an ammo made of scrap and saffron feathers that do electric damage. So initially these sound pretty good. It requires 1 scrap and 1 saffron feather, and you get 20 of them. Against a wet target, these do 74.4 damage, I think. So just shooting them normally, it's only 42.5 damage, which is not very good. You have marble ammo that deals 51 damage. Marble ammo isn't part of the skill tree, but does 51 damage. So shock scrap rounds doing 42.5 damage is not very good. But now that this damage dummy is wet, they do 74.38 damage, which is the kind of really good damage against wet targets, but you'll see why these aren't very good. So of course, they're kind of expensive to make with 1 saffron feather. There's a round that exists already called Thulsite rounds, which you can make at a pseudoscience station. They changed this as well, so once you prototype these once, you don't have to go back to an ancient pseudoscience station. You can just make these anywhere. So as you see, Thulsite rounds, as long as you craft them once, kabam, and then you go out of the ruins, you can just keep crafting them. So they're prototypable. Now I bring this up because Thulsite rounds, they deal 51 damage, but they have a 50% chance to spawn a tentacle, which deals 34 damage twice. So on average, it's going to do 34 damage per shot. So 51 plus 34 equals 85. Thulsite rounds do effectively 85 damage per shot on average, assuming that the tentacles actually hit the target. So I like to use Thulsite rounds as a baseline for DPS, or damage per shot, which is 85. These do 85 damage per shot, assuming the tentacles actually hit the enemy, which you can ensure later on when we unlock some different rounds. So for now, just know that this is all to say that shock scrap rounds aren't really worth making, and you'd rather use other rounds for now. Next we have moonglass rounds. Learn to craft moonglass rounds, an ammo made of moon shards that does damage in a significant area when hitting a creature. And you need to go to Lunar Island and prototype these at the stations. Luckily you have Wobby that you can feed 3 monster meat to, and he can help you lift the altar pieces into place. And bam! Now that we have that unlocked, we can make those moonglass rounds. So as you can see, these also are prototypable, so as soon as I make them, I've learned them forever, and I can make them even if I'm away from the altar. Now, what do moonglass shards do? Well, they are stinger rounds, but better. So again, let's just spawn a fair amount of spiders. Oh goodness. And then you start firing your moonglass rounds. They do, oh my goodness, there's too many numbers I can't see, but they do 51 damage to the primary target and 34 area effect damage. And the area effect is like quite big. It looks like about half tile radius. So there you go, that's what they do. So what this means, they do decent enough damage that you can just use them as your primary ammo, because they just do 51 damage. But if you recall, Thulsite also do 51 damage, but they have a chance to spawn a tentacle. So moonglass rounds, in theory, like they seem really good, but in practice, I like never used these. Like I was hyping these things up when the beta initially came out, but I never actually used them in the boss rush because of the way, because like the order in which I did everything. They are very good ammo. but I didn't use them. But I would still unlock them because they're good. Next, we have gunpowder rounds. Learn to craft gunpowder rounds and ammo mostly made of gunpowder that has an increasing chance to do a critical strike and does increase damage in a larger area. So I wasn't a fan of gunpowder rounds initially, but my goodness, I am a fan now. They're quite fun. So it costs 1 gunpowder, 1 grass, and 1 flint, and that will make 20 gunpowder rounds. Now, what gunpowder rounds do is quite funny. So they do 59.5 damage. That's cool. But then, if we just keep firing... Whoa! You see that? You get a big explosion, it deals double damage, and that double damage will all be in an area of effect. So they're 59.5 damage single target, but every time you fire off a shot, it has an increased chance to do a big double damage area of effect shot. And I think this overall chance is like 10%. So a 10% chance to do double damage effectively just increases the overall damage by 10%. So if you multiply its damage 59.5 by 1.1, so 10%, you get 65.45 damage per shot on average. So gunpowder rounds actually are pretty decent. 65 damage on average per shot. But you know, 65 isn't as big as Thulsite rounds though. These were 85 damage per shot. But of course, if you have a moving enemy like a Beardra for example, you're firing your Thulsite rounds, and even if the tentacles spawn, they might not hit him. As you can see, the tentacles are spawning, but they come out of the ground far too slow. Beardra's moving too fast. Actually, in that circumstance, both of the tentacles hit, but you know, some other times the tentacles are going to miss. Actually, there, that one hit. I was expecting these tentacles to miss a lot more, but actually only about half of them are missing, so that's actually not very bad. Not too bad. Anyway, point I was making is if all of your tentacles miss, your damage per shot is like 51. Whereas gunpowder rounds, all of the damage is packed into the actual shot. So they will always hit. There's nothing there to miss. And so the big damage AoE explosion will also always hit. So yeah, you know what, gamers, let's conduct a little test. I'm going to fight Beardra once with 50 Thulsite rounds, and then once with 50 gunpowder rounds. And then I'm going to see how much damage those rounds do, because then we'll be able to figure out how much damage per shots they're doing, because I'll do 50 of each, but on 2 different Beardras. So let's see. Because honestly, these tentacles are not missing as much as I thought they would. Okay, so Beardra got down to 2,804 health with 50 Thulsite rounds. Now let's do it again, but with gunpowder rounds. So 2,804 Thulsite. Now we go again, but with gunpowder. Oh, and as we're about to see, the gunpowder rounds were a little bit better. We got Beardra down to 2,549 damage. So the gunpowder rounds did 8% more damage than the Thulsite rounds. So that is to say, if you can't slow down your enemy so that the Thulsite rounds tentacles actually hit the enemy, then gunpowder rounds are your go-to rounds, because it's 59.5 damage with a chance to do double damage. So that's why I like gunpowder rounds now, because yeah, if you can't slow the enemy down, then Thulsite, the tentacles miss quite a bit. So the gunpowder rounds are now your best rounds, unless you want to use shock scrap, but I don't want to use shock scrap. Anyway, that is to say, I am a big fan of gunpowder rounds. And, little tip, at the end of winter, when Pengals die, they leave their eggs on the floor, and those eggs will rot and become rotten eggs, and that's what you need to make gunpowder. As you can see, rotten egg, that's usually the thing that people need, and then it's niter and charcoal. Yeah, so yeah, you get basically free gunpowder rounds every year when Pengal nests drop rotten eggs, or their eggs rot, I mean. And lastly, with the new ammo is Dreadstone rounds. Learn to craft Dreadstone rounds, an ammo made of Dreadstone that does a dreadful amount of damage. It says dreadful, but it's actually, it's quite a good amount of damage. With 1 Dreadstone, you're going to make 20 Dreadstone rounds, and Woby, why'd you go back to being small? So what these rounds do is 68 damage. So if you recall, gunpowder's average damage was 65.45, so these do beat it. They do 68 total damage, but the damage split with these are a bit different. Rather than doing all physical, it's 58 physical damage and 10 planar damage. What this means is that these rounds are the best, and they'll be even better versus planar enemies. So for single target damage, Dreadstone is best, then gunpowder, then Thulsite, although Thulsite is the best if you can make the enemy stay still, and these are going to be a little bit better versus planar enemies because of the 10 planar damage. But later, we'll be able to buff these rounds so they do a bit more damage. Do you know when I've been crafting, I've been saying the amount of rounds you get? Well, with these skills, Projectile Pro 1 and Projectile Pro 2, you make more rounds each craft. Now, I'm not going to tell you with Projectile Pro 1, because Projectile Pro 2 is good. Basically, always unlock these 2 skills. Always unlock these skills. It requires 4 ammo or affinity skills to unlock them, so which we just unlock 4 of these, and then you can unlock this. So now this is the amount of ammo you get per craft. So with these skills unlocked, you get every craft, you get 30 of every single round. So yeah, basically just unlock these. Always unlock these. These are always good. Now moving on to customizer. This is where things get a little complicated, so you're gonna have to bear with me. Also, something about the Dreadstone rounds I forgot to say is I think when you fire them, there's a 50% chance that they will drop onto the ground and they won't be consumed. So like, yeah, you save a bit of Dreadstone rounds there as well. Anyway, with customizer, this gets complicated, but let's start here. Learn to craft the slingshot field kit and some basic parts for customizing your slingshot. Now you have unlocked these ones. You have unlocked slingshot field kit, pigskin slingshot band, bony slingshot frame, slingshot grip tape, and that's it. So I just crafted one of each of these things. So the field kit is what's important. If you use this and you use it on your slingshot, and you can mod your slingshot. Now you have 3 slots on your slingshot. You have the grip, the frame, and the slingshot band. So these 3 basic ones you get from unlocking just that skill that I just unlocked. You can fill in all of these things. So I need to explain what these do. We'll start with the sling. The slingshot band goes here, and the slingshot band increases the range at which you can fire and like the range at which your like ammo goes. It will go further, right, when you fire it. There are some special effects later, but I'll explain them when we come to it. Then you have the grip tape. The grip slot can do 2 things. You can get a ramping speed bonus when you fire without being interrupted, or you just get a flat attack rate buff. With the silk one, it gives you a ramping speed bonus. So now if I hold F versus this thing, you can see I'm firing a lot further than before. But if I hold F, you'll see if you watch closely, see that little dust cloud there? That means my speed ramp was complete and I started firing at an increased fire rate. So let's do that again. Bam. 2, 3, 4. And after the 4th one, I gain my attack rate buff. As you can see, I'm attacking a little bit faster. So that's cool. If you do anything that isn't firing, that attack rate gets cancelled, including if you switch ammo at the wrong time. As you saw there, I had switched ammo at the wrong time, so it reset my attack animation, and it reset the fire rate buff. So yeah, that's what that does. Pretty cool. So now you have an increased fire rate. Then lastly, you have the frame slot. So bony slingshot frame you can put in there, and what this does is it unlocks a second ammo slot. So you might want to put like a special type of round in here, like honey sticky rounds, and so now you can have 2 rounds in your slingshot at once. This frame is kind of poopy, and I shouldn't really talk about it because you're instantly going to go for a different frame, but you can just swap the ammo like that. So you might want to swap the honey rounds to slow the enemy down, and then you switch back to your main damage dealing rounds. But ultimately, all this frame does is it enables storage of a second type of round inside your slingshot. That's all it does. And other frames do other things, but I'll explain them as we go. So that's the fundamentals of modding your slingshot. Now let's talk about the more stuff. So flailing band. Learn to craft a slingshot band that improves your firing distance. So by doing that, you've just unlocked the flailing slingshot band, which as you can see, you can probably get just as early as the pigskin band. This one is better than the pigskin band. It requires a cattail and tentacle spots, so you have to kill some catcoons and some tentacles in the swamp. So with the flailing band installed, this is my attack distance here. I'll just step back and kabam, that's my attack distance. Now if I swap that out with the pig band, you'll see my attack distance goes in by like a wall unit or so. So you can fire a little bit further and your ammo goes further as well. So that's what that does. It is just better than the pigskin band and you can get it very early. And yeah, I'll show you now, whatever. Okay, so see this flailing slingshot band. When you activate the rifts in the caves and the portal becomes active, some of the treasure chests in the labyrinth, Ancient Guardian's Labyrinth, and in Fuelweaver's atrium will get changed for mimics. So I don't want to go down there and activate the rifts because that will take some time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spawn one. So it will be an ornate chest, but then when you open it and you loot it, it will turn into a mimic. And then it will attack you and such and such. But what these things do is they can eat things and then corrupt them. This only affects a few items in the game, but one of them is the flailing slingshot band. So if you drop your band and you let this thing, he just ate it really fast. So if you let him eat it and then you kill him, I'm going to just turn on one-hit kill mode. Kabam! So he drops pure horror, blah, 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 blah. But he'll also drop everything that was inside of him, including the flailing slingshot band, which is now a possessed slingshot band. So now if you put this on here, so what this now does, other than increasing your firing distance, you see I just fired a round, but the number of rounds did not go down. See that? It didn't go down again. I'm going to keep firing. So what this flailing band now does is when you fire off a shot, it has a chance to just make it so that you don't consume the shot. So it just saves you ammo, which is really good. So yeah. This this upgrade band is cool. It just saves you a bunch of ammo because when you fire it, it just has a chance not to consume it. Yeah, so there you go. That's what that one does. Next, we have sticky grips. Learn to craft 2 sticky grips that improve firing rate and prevents your slingshot from slipping out of your hands. So this unlocks 2 grips here. You have the Glommer grip and the Bee Queen grip. Now these grips, they increase your fire rate by a flat amount. So there's no damage. There's no fire rate attack ramping. It just increases your attack rate by a flat amount. And of course, the Glommer grip is quite easy to get, whereas the Bee Queen grip is not so easy to get because you have to kill Bee Queen, of course. So replacing the Silk one with the Glommer one. So I'm going to fire off 10 shots simultaneously with every single one of these grips, these 3 grips. So the Silk grip, the Glommer grip, and the Jelly grip, and I'll just put it together so you can compare it in editing. And editing Jakey will do it for us. All right, so this is the Silk grip. So there you go. Hope you saw that comparison. All of this to say that the jelly bean grip is the best one, of course, because out of these 3, because it comes from Bee Queen. So yeah, and otherwise it stops your slingshot from falling out of your hand. Oh goodness, a moose goose. I sure hope he doesn't honk at me. See that? He honked, and that attack normally makes you drop your weapon, but I didn't drop my weapon because of the, I have the Bee Queen grip, and the Glommer grip also works so you don't drop the slingshot. Cool. So next you have the full sight frame. Learn to craft a frame that adds a special ammo slot used for an alternative special attack. This is basically, I'll just say it now, don't make the bone slingshot frame. You will never use it. It's stupid. You'll instantly go for one of the better ones. At a pseudo-science station, you will be able to craft the full sight slingshot frame, requiring 2 Thorsight, 2 Nightmare Fuel, red gem, blue gem. Again, you do have to craft this down in the ruins, but I'm going to cheat, of course. And also, just saying, this is the best slingshot band, and I'm going to keep it on for all of the testing, and I'm going to keep the Bee Queen grip on for the rest of the testing, unless I'm testing a different grip. So with the full sight frame now, I still have a second slot, but it does something a bit different. If you right click, you can do a special shot. Now this shot is special because it fires at a longer range, kind of. As you can see, the shot eventually disappears, but you don't have to target anything, which means you can fire at a lot longer ranges. This allows you to cheese lots of bosses. You can cheese lots of bosses doing this. And the firing rate is still the same as if you were holding F, so you can spam the special attack quite fast. But that's not all the special attack does. The slowdown rounds also got buffed in this update, and there's a little effect that applies to every magic ammo, including these magic ammos, which I'll get to later. So I've just made a bunch of these DPS targets because with this special attack, this is now what happens. Wow. Did you see that? It fired off 1 shot, and in an area of effect, it applies the special effect of the ammo. So we fire off the 1 shot. The shot itself only deals 1 instance of damage, but it applies its magic effect in an area of effect. So in this case, we're using Thorsight rounds, which of course have a 50% chance to spawn a tentacle. So what this means, even though I only hit 1 target, anything inside the area of effect has a chance for a tentacle to spawn and the tentacle to hit that target, which is super cool. So if there were a bunch of spiders you wanted to shoot, kabam! All the tentacles spawn and give them a good old whipping. Now, of course, slowdown rounds, like I said, they got a buff in this update, and they also have a magic effect, which is they slow down the enemies. But their update is that they can stack up to 4 times, and if you use the special attack, it does it in an area of effect. So this actually fixes, you know, Thorsight rounds problem. Let me just make Woby into a Beefalo real quick. So now if we spawn Berger, you fire off 4 slowdown rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now he is moving a little bit slower. You can see when the slowdown rounds effect ends, because you see like the black magic kind of like seeping off of Berger. When that disappears, that means the effect is gone. Like now, just now the effect is gone, so you're gonna fire 4 more slowdown rounds to refresh the effect. So I'm just going to do a quick test. I'm going to take out the possessed slingshot band and just put in the normal one, because we're going to fire off 50 Thorsight rounds again. But this time we're going to use the slowdown rounds, because of course the slowdown rounds kind of just like fix the problem with the Thorsight rounds, which is the tentacles will miss sometimes. So 4 slowdown rounds will stack. They don't stack more than 4, so once you have 4, that's the maximum slowdown effect you get, and then I can hold F with the Thorsight rounds, and the tentacles will hit quite a lot. Now, do you remember how much damage 50 gunpowder rounds did? I do, because I wrote it in the chat. The gunpowder rounds got Beardrag down to 2,549 health. Well, now with 50 Thulsite rounds and the slowdown rounds, he got Beardrag down to 2,328. So with the slowdown rounds, the Thulsite rounds are now better than gunpowder rounds. Anyway, this is all to say slowdown rounds are good. They also count as magical ammo, so their slowdown effect applies in an area of effect when you shoot it off with the special attack of the slingshot. So bam, all of those spiders are now slowed down. And it stacks up to 4 times, of course, so you can fire it off a few times. They are moving so slowly, silly spiders. Get used to using slowdown rounds, because they will be an essential part of your kit, because of course you want to slow down the enemy so that you can fire at them for longer, so you don't have to kite as much on Woby or a B-Flow, whatever you use. Any magical round will have its effect applied in area of effect when fired with the Thulsite Frame's special attack. Not the normal attack, the special attack. And the special attack is when the ammo goes into this one right here. And out of the ammos that have a special attack, none of these have a magical special attack. It is the Thulsite rounds, the slowdown rounds, and the affinity rounds, which we'll get to soon. Anyway, let's move on to the last frame. This is the Scrappy frame. Learn to craft a frame that adds an alternative charge attack. This frame can be further upgraded to expand your ammo slot size. So this frame you can actually get really early on, like earlier than the Thulsite frame. It requires 2 scrap, an electrical doodad, and frazzled wires. All of these you can get from the scrapyard. Should we try our luck, see if we get all the stuff we need to make the Scrappy frame? So when you find the scrapyard, you'll see it has a bunch of junk piles. When you search these, you have chances to get various things. We got the electrical doodad. We definitely got the scrap, but will we get the frazzled? Oh, we got the frazzled wire as well. So yeah, just like that, you can now make the Scrappy slingshot frame. So what does this frame do? Well, easy to compare it to the Thulsite frame. So putting this frame in, you don't have 2 slots anymore. You have just 1 slot, but your charge attack, your special attack is different. So just for the demonstration, I'm gonna use gunpowder rounds. This is my range. But now what this special attack is if I hold it down, once the arrow is at its maximum length and I fire off the shot, it will do double damage. If you fire off too early, it will do not quite double damage, it will do a little bit less. Well, it scales based on how much you pulled the arrow back, so basically it's always worth pulling it back. And as you saw there, I just did 238 damage in 1 shot. That's because I charged the arrow up fully and the gunpowder round did its special explosion, so I got double damage twice. It doubled its damage to 119, then the slingshot special attack went up to 238. Look at that. But the other good thing about the special attack is, like the Thulsite special attack, it has a big range. Once you get close enough, it will start hitting the enemy. And so basically this basically just means you can cheese enemies, because rather than firing more rounds for the same damage with the Thulsite round, you can fire half the rounds slower, but they all do double damage. It is a bit of effort though, doing lots of special attacking. This range it's like 8 tiles, almost 8 tiles, like 7.5, 8 tile range. So that's a huge range for cheesing bosses. Yeah, you can cheese a lot of bosses using this extra range. Yeah, so that's what the Scrappy frame does. You don't get the extra slot, but your charge attack is double damage, but it takes twice as long to charge it up. So DPS wise, Thulsite frame and Scrappy frame are like the same for their special attacks. Now, Scrappy frame is cool, and it can be upgraded. So using the Scrappier frame and the Elastispacer, which is something you get from the Elastispacer, it requires a blueprint. You get the Elastispacer blueprint from hammering Wagstaff's experiments, and as you can see, it's quite expensive. 4 scrap, 2 pure brilliance, and an enlightened shard. So what this means is you need to have the rifts open to get the pure brilliance, the rifts in the overworld. Then you have to kill Celestial Champion to get the crown, then you have to deconstruct the crown for an enlightened shard. You can then craft the Scrappier slingshot frame. Now what does this frame do? It seemingly does nothing different. Your special attack range is the same, your firing rate is the same, you have the same amount of ammo, but as you can see, all round types only stack up to 120. So once you have more than that, it creates a new stack. And this applies for your slingshot as well. You can only have 120 in your slingshot at a time, except with the Scrappier frame, oh my goodness, you can put as much ammo as you want in there. So normally you can't stack them above 120, but in the slingshot frame, in the Scrappier slingshot frame, you can put as many as you want in there. You can put I forget, it's like millions or billions. Yeah, so you can put lots of ammo in there now. This is kind of a problem if you want to quickly switch to like slowdown rounds, because you can't just take the gunpowder rounds out because they only stack up to 120, so you have to pull them out in stacks of 120. You could have this frame being your dedicated ammo, which is just like Thulsite rounds or gunpowder rounds, and just put only those rounds in it, and then you have a different slingshot that does something different. I would rather use the Thulsite frame from start to finish and not use the scrappy frame, but it's up to you. I've explained to you what they do, so there we go, we're moving on. Now we have the Void Wrap. Learn to craft a grip wrap that continuously improves your firing rate when uninterrupted. So this is the same as the Silk Wrap, except it's a bit better. So of course it requires dark tatters or void cloth, so you need to unlock the cave rifts to be able to make this, but once you do make it, you can then mod your slingshot and put it there. Now, the Void Grip is the same as the Silk Grip in that it has a ramping fire rate bonus. So it's already pretty fast, but then once it's ramped up to full speed, it goes quite fast, as you can see. So what I'll do, I'm going to run, you know that when I fired 10 shots before, I'm going to do the same thing, except this time I'm going to do it with the Void Wrap. Now what this means in the end game, you either choose the Void Wrap or you choose the Slingshot Jelly Grip, because the Jelly Grip is a flat fire attack rate and the Void Wrap is a ramping one. Now, of course this attack rate buff, so I get the attack rate buff, and then if I move, it resets it. If you do anything that isn't firing, it resets it. So what this fundamentally boils down to is you need to be letting off like more than 4 shots with the Void Wrap to make it better than the Jelly Grip, because the Jelly Grip just gives you a flat attack rate buff. You can imagine if you're fighting a bunch of hounds, you're going to be constantly kiting. So you're going to be constantly like firing off one shot, then kiting. So the Void Wrap won't be very good here. Ooh, I got kicked off. Bam, huge explosion. So in this case, like when you're constantly kiting like against hounds, the Jelly Grip is obviously going to be better. But usually when you're fighting bosses, you're going to be slowing them down a bunch, then you're going to be sitting back and holding F for like up to 10 shots, and then you'll be dodging again. The TLDR is that the Jelly Grip is really good, and the Void Grip is better when you're fighting bosses, basically. But that's not the only thing the Void Grip does. With the Void Grip equipped and the Void Cowl, this is what happens. Your Dreadstone rounds go from doing 68 damage to 78 damage. So what this boils down to is that Dreadstone rounds are now your best single target round, especially against planet enemies, unless you can slow down the enemy so that all of your Thulsite rounds tentacles always hit, because then they'll do 85 damage per shot. But otherwise, Dreadstone are your best ones when you have Void Wrap and Void Cowl equipped. And if you have just one and not the other, then you don't get the buff. So if I keep the Void Cowl but I swap out to the Jelly Grip, I don't get the buff. It goes back down to 68 damage. So now we have the affinities. And so this is the recommended skill tree so far, but now we have the affinities. We're going to start with the Shadow Affinity because it's the best one. Spoilers, the Shadow Affinity is really good. So what the Shadow Affinity says is the Queen will reward your loyalty by teaching you how to craft the Icky and Pure Horror rounds, a slowdown and damage focused ammo respectively. So you've just unlocked the Icky rounds and the Pure Horror rounds. Now the Icky rounds require an Ica jar, which is a bottle from like one of Pearl's bottles, and then you use it on an Ica in the caves, and that Ica spawns after you activate the rifts after killing Fuel Weaver. There we go. So this is what an Ica is. Usually they spawn in like hordes of like 6 or 7 or 8 of them, and normally you can kill them by doing lots of damage, but that's not what we want. No. So instead, if you put a couple of attacks into them, they let out a blob, use the bottle on the blob, and you get yourself your Ica jar. And then in the ruins, you have to craft a Shadowcraft plinth. That's using Pure Horror, Dreadstone, and Nightmare Fuel. You make a Shadowcraft plinth kit that goes in your inventory. Then you bring this back to your base and you put it down. You can finally prototype your Icky rounds. When you make them, it doesn't consume the bottle, thankfully. Then you get the bottle back, so then you can go back into the caves and you can keep firing at your Icas. And then once you've done that, you can just constantly do this. Once you've prototyped them, you can just keep collecting Ica from the same Ica and then just make the rounds. And I say this because this is something you'll probably want to do. And it's funny, each time you collect an Ica blob from the Ica, it loses part of its body, so it can't regenerate fast enough to stop from dying. That's quite funny. Oh goodness, I killed it. I wasn't meant to kill it. But yeah, you get Ica rounds. Now, what do these Icky rounds do? I think I'm going to cover both of them at the same time. Then you can also prototype the pure horror rounds, which require pure horror and rocks. To be fair, these rounds you can actually acquire pretty fast. You don't need to open the rifts for these, but yeah. What do these icky rounds do? Come here, Mr. Pigman. I'm just going to hit you in the face. Special attacking with the icky rounds doesn't do anything different, by the way. Silly Pigman, you've been incredibly slowed down. So these icky rounds, they slow down enemies a lot, like a lot, for 45 seconds. That's quite the increase from Honey's like 8 or 10 or 12 seconds or whatever. So these icky rounds are the ultimate end game, because I'm just going to have to show you how good these rounds are. So my slingshot has only the default slingshot band, full sight frame, and the void wrap. I'm not going to wear void cowl. Void cowl doesn't buff any of this ammo, but this is what happens when you combine all of these ammo. So again, let's spawn Berger, and we're going to use 50 full sight rounds like before. So we're going to fire off an icky shot, kabam. Then we're going to fire off 4 slowdown rounds. Then we're going to stay with the full sight rounds. So he's been slowed down by 1 icky round, they don't stack more than 1, and he's been slowed down by 4 slowdown rounds. Now I'm just holding F with the full sight rounds. And he has finally reached me, so I will have to kite unfortunately in a second. Oh my goodness, yeah, okay, there we go. He finally got to me after I fired off 41 rounds. I fired off 41 rounds before I had to kite. Anyway, so that is all to say that before, if we look back in the chat log, Berger got down to 2,804 health. Now he's down to 1,546 health. It's probably safe to say that all of my full sight round technicals hit. And by all of them hitting, I was doing 85 damage per shot, which makes full sight rounds the best rounds, of course. We love full sight rounds. This is why I've been talking about slowdown the entire video. These icky rounds are insane. Once you unlock icky rounds, which you could do because you can cheese Fuel Weaver, and that's all you need. You need to kill Fuel Weaver and unlock the rifts in the caves. Then you can just slow down all the bosses with 1 icky round and 4 slowdown rounds, because they stack. And then you can just hold F with full sight rounds and you just win the game. I'm going to show you with a different boss. So allow me to show you with Dragonfly. Dragonfly's kind of scary, right? Uh-oh. Ugh. So I slow him down and 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we hold F with full sight rounds. Look how slow Dragonfly is moving. Dragonfly is a really fast moving boss, but not anymore because, yeah, icky rounds plus slowdown rounds. Although his attack is quite fast, so you probably want to kite preemptively. Look how slow he's moving. And it's not a lie to say that this is basically the entire Dragonfly fight now. It gets funnier though, it does get funnier, hold on. Once Dragonfly goes to spawn his first round of larvae, it is very funny. Oh no, the slowdown round effect ran out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you fire another icky shot, it just refreshes the duration. And these icky shots, they're so cheap once you unlock them, so you can like spam them and like fire them off preemptively. But as you can see now, Dragonfly is really trying hard to go to this pond over there. You can't even see it. He's really trying, or she's really trying to get there, but she's so slow. She's so slow that she can't get to it. Or she will eventually, but it will just take a while. And so this is the whole Dragonfly fight now. You slow her down such that it's just so funny. And anyway, I've ran out of full sight rounds. But, and also with full sight rounds, this is why I like full sight rounds as well. Once you prototype them, you just need to bring full sight fragments and nightmare fuel. Nightmare fuel you'll probably have with you anyway, but then you can just craft more. Oh goodness, the icky round ran out. You can even slow down the larvae so they don't get to you. And look, and oh, I killed the first larvae and Dragonfly's still trying to spawn his second larvae. Goodness, or her second larvae. Although I will say, if you stand too close to Dragonfly, while she's going towards the lava pond, she will slap you, so you still have to keep your distance. But yeah, you can see Dragonfly is half dead, and she's now spawning her second larvae. Not in the second larvae phase, but spawning her overall second larvae. I won't spoil this fight for you too much because I'll do this in a boss rush and you can watch it then. But yeah, this boss fight's hilarious once you have all these rounds. And this is basically every boss encounter with Woby and Walter. You just slow the enemy down so they can't really catch up to you at all, and then you hold F with full sight rounds and then you win the game. Yeah, there you go. So that's what icky rounds do. They're really good. They make every boss quite easy. Although they only slow down movement, they don't slow down attacks. So for example, here are the twins, very spooky. If we hit them with the icky rounds, kabam and kabam, their movement is being slowed, but their attacks still move at full speed because their attacks count as attacks and not as movement. So they still have to get within a certain range of you before they'll do their attack, but the window between that and them starting their attack is quite small. So anyway, yeah, they do want to move towards you to do their attack, but it's a very small window, so you could technically you could just keep kiting them so that they never do an attack. It's like letting off 2 shots, then you have to kite. Yeah, that'd be very long and boring. Anyway, that also applies to Celestial Champion, like phase 2. So you got phase 2 Celestial Champion. If you slow him down, it's still she still spins at the maximum attack rate. She still spins at the attack she would normally. It's just her movement is slowed down, not her attack. Like her attacks. You know what I'm saying? So look, she moves really slow. Oh yeah, and of course, when you unlock Shadow Affinity, you do 10% more damage versus Lunar enemies. That's why my Full Sight rounds are doing 5.1 extra damage. But the Shadow Tentacles, even though they're Shadow Tentacles, they are not Shadow aligned, so they don't get the extra damage bonus, but whatever. Anyway, so that's Icky rounds. They're really insane and really good. Now, this skill also unlocks a second round called Pure Horror rounds. And as you can see, the magical effect of the Icky rounds don't apply in an area of effect with the full sight frame, but as you can see here, it's kind of hard to see. You see the blobs that get released by anything affected by the Icky rounds? If any other mob like moves inside of that, you can see that a second blob like appears. You see that? You see there? He's moving and a blob generates underneath him. So it kind of spreads, like while there's, you see how he slowed down just there? So even though he wasn't affected by the Icky rounds, because he was close to someone else who was affected by the Icky rounds, it slowed him down still. So that was cool. And also it affects flying enemies, whereas honey shots do not affect flying enemies. And the Icky rounds aren't buffed by the Void Cowl or the Void Wrap or anything. But next we have the Pure Horror rounds. Now just for the sake of testing, I am going to slow Beardro down, but here's what the Pure Horror rounds do. You fire one off, and it does some damage. Some of that is planar damage, and then it bleeds the enemy for 10 damage. 7 times. So one shot deals the initial shot damage of 37, and then it makes them take 70 damage over time, which is pretty neat. But that is not all. So if I now put the Void Wrap on and I'm wearing the Void Cowl, then I fire off a Pure Horror shot, I go from doing 37 damage to 43.7. Then I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 bleeds. So it bleeds for a little bit longer and the initial shot does a little bit more. You do need the Void Cowl and the Void Grip. If you're missing either of them, then you don't get any buffs to the damage. But that's not all, because this stacks. So what you can do is, just for funny. So now you Ica Beardro, then we're going to slow him down a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, Pure Horror rounds, they stack up to 4. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have 4 bleeds happening at a time. If you fire off another shot while those bleeds are happening, it will just refresh one of the bleeds. So this round is good because in total, with all of the buffs, it's doing 90 damage from the bleeds plus, how much? 40 something damage? 43.7 damage plus 90 damage from the bleeds. So it's dealing 133 damage from one shot, which is really good, but you just can't keep firing them because it only stacks up to 4 times. So now let me show you the ultimate combo. You use the Icar round to slow Beardro down. Then you fire off 4 slowdown rounds. Then you fire off 4 Pure Horror rounds. And then you switch at the right time and you can do Full Sight rounds. So now he's bleeding and he's slowed down, and look at all that damage. Then once you notice the Pure Horror rounds wear off, you just switch back to the Pure Horror rounds and fire off 4 more, and then switch back to the Full Sight rounds. The timing for switching ammo without cancelling your attack rate buff is kind of annoying. You have to switch the ammo when your last ammo gets shot out of your slingshot. So that's kind of hard to explain. So like, as you see the round leave your slingshot, that's when you switch to the other round without cancelling your fire rate. If you do it wrong like I just did there, then it resets the fire rate because it cancels the animation. Anyway, so Shadow Affinity is very good. The Pure Horror rounds are always worth using. They're always going to deal 100 damage in one shot. They're going to deal at least 30 damage, then 7 bleeds, and if you have them buffed, they'll do 43 damage plus 9 bleeds. So they're always going to do over 100 damage. So they're always worth using. So if you want to make them, they're always worth swapping into and letting off 4 of them and then letting the bleeds happen for a few seconds. And then once the effect wears off, you refresh it. That's always worth doing, whether you have the Void Cowl buff or not. But yeah, so that bit about this is your end game setup, by the way. Your end game setup is Icky rounds, slowdown rounds, pure horror rounds if you're fighting a planar enemy, and then just Thulsite rounds. You can use Dreadstone rounds instead of Thulsite rounds, but I just prefer Thulsite rounds because they create just a little bit more stagger, which I like. So yeah, the end game setup is these 4 bits of rounds. You have the Icky rounds in the special attack slot, and then you just constantly switch between slowdown rounds, curse rounds, and pure horror rounds. So there you go, that's the end game stuff. And now let's talk about the Lunar Slinger, which is not quite as good as Shadow, but let's talk about it. Oh goodness, where'd this Beardra come from? Why are you mad at me? How dare you approach me out of nowhere for all that damage? See, you idiot. So, Lunar Slinger says, the Cryptic Founder will reward your curiosity by teaching you how to craft the Pure Brilliance and Bright Shade rounds, a debuff and damage-focused ammo, respectively. So you unlock the Bright Shade Husk rounds and the Pure Brilliance rounds. It requires Bright Shade Husks and Pure Brilliance. All of the equipment we talked about, you still have access to that. So you can still make the Thulsite frame, you can still make the Possessed Slingshot band, so you can save ammo, and you can still use the Void Wrap, because the Void Wrap is this skill, not this skill. So you can still use Void Wrap with the Lunar stuff. Now, since Beardra has been our test dummy, he will continue to be a test dummy. So just out of habit, I'm going to slow him down first with slowdown rounds. So right, here's what the Bright Shade Husk rounds do. So you fire it off, does 68 damage, that's pretty good. Oh, did you see that? Look at that. A tentacle instantly spawned and slapped Beardra for 85 damage. Now that is quite sizable. So if you hold F, you can watch all of the stuff. Look at all those tentacles. Basically, these are like the Thulsite rounds, except the tentacles are way faster. So the tentacles are way faster, so you technically don't need to slow down the enemy because the tentacles are so fast. They come out of the ground and whip like really fast. Now, of course, all of this damage, some of it is planar damage. So you could think of these rounds as just better Thulsite rounds because they do more damage and they spawn a tentacle that does more damage. But as you can see, it's definitely not a 50% chance. I'm honestly not sure what the chance is, but just from looking now, it's definitely not a 50% chance. Maybe 25% chance, not sure. Now, this round is actually good. But the problem is, even if you switch skill trees, you can't use these Icky rounds. Even if you've crafted them when you had this affinity, you can't then just use them and switch to Lunar affinity. So you really are choosing between buffed Thulsite rounds or Icky rounds, which slow down enemies a ton. Yeah, Icky rounds are really good, so I don't really want to sacrifice those. But anyway, let's talk about the Pure Brilliance rounds. So again, I'm going to fire off 4 slowdown rounds to slow Beardra down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So then you have these Pure Brilliance rounds. When you fire them off, it does 54 damage and then it applies an effect. An effect? What does this effect do? Well, whenever the enemy gets hit by planar damage, so only planar damage and not physical damage, they receive +5 extra planar damage. So there's the debuff, then I fire with the Bright Shade rounds, it does 73 damage instead of 68. So as you can see, you apply the debuff, so the debuff doesn't stack, and it doesn't last all that long, so you have to refresh it quite often, like every 8 or 10 seconds it seems. And of course you want to fire the slowdown rounds as well. So there you go, that's the Lunar DPS you're talking about. You're going to slow down with the slowdown rounds 4 times, then you're going to apply the debuff, then you're going to fire out the Bright Shade Husk rounds. Now, credit where credit's due, the Bright Shade Husk rounds are very cheap because once you activate the Lunar Rifts, you get Bright Shade Husks really easily, really easily. Now with this setup, honestly, I think I would find it more convenient to use the Scrappy frame because you have to refresh this debuff so often. I'd rather just switch into the ammo rather than having to right click and fire off a shot. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to the other, the Scrappy frame.
Shut up, live Goenji Jakey. Don't you know that it's better to just not use the Pure Brilliance rounds unless you're fighting with multiple people, because then multiple people gain the debuff of the +5 planar damage. So only use Pure Brilliance rounds if you're fighting with multiple of your friends, so the boss is receiving lots of instances of damage. Otherwise it's not worth using.
And now there's also one other thing that I forgot to mention with the Scrappy frame. When you fire off a Scrappy frame shot, you see the dust cloud right there? That sets the Void Wrap's attack rate buff to its maximum, so you take some time to fire off one of those and it does it. So this technically is worth doing because you don't have to charge the arrow all the way and then you get the maximum fire attack rate buff. So you just charge it a little bit and then you're already at the max attack rate. But as you saw there, I moved slightly forward to reach Bearger and it cancelled the attack rate buff. But yeah, just thought I'd say. That also works with like Icky rounds, of course. So you could switch into Icky rounds, let off a charge shot, and then you're at max attack rate buff. But starting the fight with that is kind of not super consistent, I feel, because you might miss and also you might then hold F and walk into range, so it just cancels the attack rate buff. So that part of the scrappy frame I've kind of ignored because I don't think it's really that important. Just in case you thought, the bright shade helmet doesn't buff this ammo at all. That the buffing aspect only belongs to like the void stuff. So let's do a test. I'm going to spawn Bearger and I will start the fight, and then editing Jakey will compare the two, Shadow versus Luna, and you'll be able to see the results, but of course I won't. So let's go. Man, I could just hold F and he just died. I didn't even need to move. That was amazing. I'm not sure which one was faster. Editing GQ will be able to tell which one's faster, but I can tell you that the Shadow one with the Ica rounds felt so much nicer to do. I didn't even need a kite. He just like kind of died before he even got to me. There you go. On to the final bit, Woby training. This bit, I'm not going to talk too in depth to it because they're about to change it. Learn to craft the Woby training station and unlock the basic version of every training badge. So let's start with that. So if you can see here, you unlock the Woby training station. You can get this like day 2 or 3. It requires silk and some boards. So you're going to have to find a forest for the spiders. And once you do craft it, you can make this. Ultimately, you'd probably want to make 2 of these. One right at the start in a random forest when you first can. And then just put one at your base when you base, or you can just do one at base. So this is what you get. You get Woby's training board. You have 4 points that you can spend to unlock these badges. I'll briefly explain what these badges do. So every single new world that you start, all of the badge progresses, they start at 0%. Agility means Woby will go faster. So when you ride Woby, it will progress the badge, and when you're riding her, agility just makes her move faster. Cool, so that's what that does. And you can only activate 4 of these at a time because you only have 4 points that you can spend. Bravery significantly increases the damage you can take before Woby knocks you off based on badge progress. Attacking and being attacked while riding Woby advances this progress. So if you didn't know, if you take a little bit of damage, Woby will buck you off. Like a little bit of damage to your health. But with Bravery, it increases how much damage you have to take before Woby will buck you off. So this is good for like if you make mistakes, so that's pretty neat. Report 1 significantly decreases the loss of sanity when taking damage while riding Woby based on bad progress. It also slowly regenerates your sanity while riding Woby. Attacking and taking damage while riding Woby advances this progress. So normally when Walter takes damage, he loses sanity. This reduces the amount of sanity he loses when he takes damage while riding Woby, and you regenerate sanity on Woby. I don't know how much sanity, and they're probably going to change it, so I'm not really going to look into it, but this is decent. Digging. This is something that I've actually used. So this teaches Woby how to dig and find items. The chance of successful dig increases with badge progress. So what this does when you unlock it, Woby will run off somewhere and go dig something up. Probably fail because he's level 0. Oh, he found a houndstooth. Good job. Alright, so what this digging does, so he got 3% from doing 1 dig, and then it goes on cooldown for like a day, and then he'll do it again, or she'll do it again. And then we have fetching. This badge teaches Woby to pick up items, success with the badge progress, blah blah blah. So if we put some seeds inside of Woby, you see, look, some seeds, and Woby went and picked them up. So that's what the fetch skill does. Anything stored inside Woby, Woby will go grab like duplicates of that item. In my Walter boss rush, I had these 2 skills active, and I unlocked. I guess I'll go over these skills real quick. So what this does is it unlocks the second badge. All these skills, they unlock the second badge of these badges. That is to say, you can just get the advanced version of it. So in the skill tree, I unlocked digging 2. And then in here, it unlocks digging 2. The badge decreases the time between digs. So basically, all these second badges usually just improve the first badge by increasing or decreasing its numbers. In this case, it makes digging have a smaller cooldown. Fetching, it makes it have a smaller cooldown. Support, it means you lose less sanity and you regen more sanity while raiding Woby. Bravery is the same thing. You have to take even more damage for him to knock you off, and agility makes Woby move even faster. Now in my boss rush, this is what I used. I used fetching and double digging. The digging was cool because on day like 3, Woby just like dug up a pan flute. How the digging works is Woby has a drop table of what she can dig up in the caves and the surface, and she'll just pick randomly what she'll dig up, assuming that it's a successful dig. And also to get these badges to 100%, it takes until about like day 50 for like the fetching and digging skills to get maxed out, like day 50. But all of these ones, these depend on just how much you do things. So if you ride Woby a lot, you'll progress it a lot faster. Bravery if you attack a lot, and support if you attack a lot, you'll advance these a lot faster. So after my boss rush, I can say that fetching was annoying. Because what Woby would do is I would have like sticks, grass, and flint in her, and she would just keep picking up flint, and she would have like 2 stacks of flint, and it just got annoying. So I'm honestly not a fan of fetching. In the early game, it was decent to have Woby pick up seeds so I could do some farming, but honestly not a fan of fetching. Digging is funny when she pulls up, like, she can dig up green gems and yellow gems. Like, in my boss rush, she dug up, like, 2 yellow gems, 2 green gems, a couple of pan flutes, and that's, like, in 1 year. So, it is funny, but if you're riding around on a beefalo, which I was, in my boss rush, I trained a beefalo, you're moving so fast that imagine you're walking in this direction, then Woby, to see if I just skip, Woby's going to decide to dig. So you can imagine, if you're running in this direction, then Woby just decides to dig, bam, if you freeze frame it. Woby will then choose an area around her and she'll go dig there. So if she chose here, she would go and dig there, but then I'm continuing to move, so I won't actually see that she went to dig something up. So whatever she dug up, like just now, she's going to go dig something up, but I'm running away, so I didn't even see it. I didn't even see what she dug up. And at this point you'd be like, oh, where's Woby? And you might go back to go check what she dug up. And you won't really know because she might have failed or she might have dug something up. Oh, no. Oh look, she dug up a gnome. Good job. Point is that most of her digs I just missed because I was moving so fast that I just didn't see her. But fair to say, whenever Woby's off your screen, she's probably ran off the dog to dig something and you missed up whatever she digged. So digging is cool, but it's kind of a gimmick. Like you probably won't benefit from it. Like, probably. She dug up some yellow and green gems, but I didn't use them, so this is a bit of a gimmick. So if I were to be totally for real, I would say, if you're like a beginner, and you, like a beginner intermediate, and you don't want to train a beefalo, just unlock like these 3, and then unlock like agility 2. I would say just unlock like that. Oh yeah, and by the way, the number 2 badges, they take up 2 points. So if you're a beginner or intermediate and you're not going to train a beefalo, I would just do this, honestly. Make Woby move at max speed with agility, and then just go for bravery, so that if you make a mistake and you get hit, you have to take like more damage for her to knock you off. Now, I say that because in my rush, I did train a beefalo. I never rode Woby, all because of the fact, as you've seen throughout this when I've done some testing, when you're riding Woby, even with like bravery on, if you get hit too much, Woby throws you off and puts you into a massive buck animation where you'll just die. Like, you will just die or take a significant amount of damage, lose a ton of sanity. I wouldn't really like to ride Woby unless it's like you're moving pieces and you don't have a beefalo. But yeah, so if you're taming a beefalo, these skills don't matter. You can get whatever. So that's what I was doing. I was taming a beefalo, so I thought digging would be funny because she might dig me up some green gems. These don't do anything if you're not riding Woby, so I didn't unlock any of these, and then I just unlocked fetching. But then by the end of it, I specifically turned fetching off because it got annoying. But yeah, you could, if you're going to ride Woby, unlock these. So recommended skill tree, stingers are really cheap. Gunpowder rounds are really good if you can't slow down the enemy, so you can't use soul sight rounds. But if you can, then soul sight rounds are better. Moonglass rounds are literally AoE stinger rounds, but better with a bigger area effect. Dreadstone are best in slot versus planar enemies in some scenarios. These 2 skills are always good, and then you want to unlock all of these. You could potentially skip on the scrappy frame. In my boss rush, I never used the scrappy frame. I only used the soul sight frame, but you could get it. I prefer the shadow affinity because icky rounds are just so good. After that, you can get whatever you want. You could go for honey if you wanted to slow down in the early game. And as for Woby training, it's up to you, man. If you're gonna ride Wobbly, like if you're not gonna tame a Beeflo, 100% unlock Agility 2 and go for Agility 1 and Agility 2 badges, then go for like Bravery 1. So this would probably be my recommended skill tree, to be honest. Unless and they're gonna change some Wobby stuff, but for now, that's the recommended skill tree. On to Wendy. So I actually recorded the Wendy live commentary explaining yesterday, but then they released a quick beta update, and then I did a live stream going over the update, and that live stream could be summarized with just like this clip right here. Cursed Vexation does not alter Abigail's Vex multiplier. It now just adds fat. No! But now I am enlightened, and now that I am enlightened and I am calm, and Abigail is speaking to me, and enlightened and informed. So let's go over the skill tree. I could have just re-recorded the sections that got updated, but I'm going to re-record the entire thing. Let's go. So first of all, we have Pip Spook Quest 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to cover all of these at once. Of course, this is the best Wendy skin. Why is this world such a mess? The hell? By the way, if you have a setup like this with Winona, you get like 2,500 DPS. Hell yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna nuke this world real quick. Abigail, go, go, go! So, Pip Scoop quest. If you go to a gravestone, or grave, finally, a Pip Spook. My goodness, what took you so long? Anyway, so this here Pip Spook, it's pointing me in the direction. Now that I have these skills active, so let me just read them real quick. It says Pip Spook's lost toys aren't quite so far away. So what this means is, I kind of have to explain how Pip Spook spawns their toys. So when you accept a Pip Spook, it instantly spawns all of their toys, like all of them. With this skill, the initial run to find the first toy is shorter, right? Then the second one says the Pip Spook remembers more lost toys to find. This just spawns more toys. Then at the end of the hunt, you get more Morning Glories. How do these toys spawn? So I accepted the Pip Spook quest right here, and the Pip Spook is taking me in this direction. So once we get to like over here, there will be a circle of toys. It's hard to imagine, kind of, but as soon as you accept the quest, the Pip Spook will spawn all of the toys. So as soon as you find the first one, right here, here's the first one. Now imagine, this is a circle. The circle of toys is here, like 100%. I'm just gonna, for demonstration purposes, gonna remove all of the evergreens. There we go. So I got 2 Morning Glories for that. Wow. So now, remember this toy was here. So there is a circle shape here somewhere made of toys. So we're gonna go this way and see if we can find the next one in the circle. Oh, there it is. So we know that we were like the bottom left of the circle. So now we're going around like this. So here's the next one. So then the other one should be coming up here somewhere. There it is. There we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So we've done like the very bottom of the circle now. So the next one should be up here near the spider den. There it is. So the next one should be just up here a bit. And then to the left, because we're traveling in a circle. So keeping this like circle like shape in your head makes this so much easier to find the toys. Just know that you have to travel in a circle shape. Then I think we probably got one more toy. There it is. Teeth. And there we go. So from that one hunt, we got 20 Morning Glories. As you can see, we found the first toy there, then they traveled in a circle and we ended up here. So there you go, a circle of toys. So again, we started here. The initial run gets reduced by the skill 1, then he spawns more toys inside his circle, and yeah, then you get more Morning Glories. You get 2 Morning Glories per toy, then you get a bunch at the end. So that was 20. Without this skill, without all these skills, you only get like 8 or 9 Morning Glories or something. You get like over half the amount than with these skills. So these skills are really good. Let's do this branch next. Picnic Casket. Wendy can craft a basket to carry all of Abigail's elixirs and Morning Glory. This does exactly what it says. It costs 6 twigs, boards, and silk, and I'm going to cheat. And you can store Morning Glory in there, and in total, once you unlock all of the potions, you do have 9 potions as well. So if you store Morning Glory in there, you have technically 8 potion slots and then 1 Morning Glory slot. But I would probably leave the Morning Glories at the base and only just store your potions in the casket. But there you go, that's cool, isn't it? So that is very neat. Speaking of potions, we've now unlocked Ghastly Experience. Wendy learns to brew a new ghostly elixir which helps Abigail quickly remember her potential. So what this potion does is it requires Forget-Me-Lots and 3 Morning Glory. Forget-Me-Lots are weeds you can get from farming. When you apply it to Abigail, it instantly levels her up to level 3. It's instantly consumed and gone, but it just instantly puts her to level 3. So this is really, really handy because If she dies, you normally have to wait a few days for her to be fully back to level 3, but now you can just instantly put her back to level 3. So that's really good potion, very good. Next is elixirs with 1 day duration, it will now last 2 days. This is pretty self-explanatory. So elixirs like the shield potion and nightshade nostrum, they last for an entire day, but now with the skill, they will last 2 days. There's not really much to show here, like rather than a day, it will last for 2 days. Next we have sometimes Wendy is able to squeeze extra elixirs out of the same ingredients. Now this is actually pretty good. So whenever you craft a potion, any potion, you have a 50% chance to just get 2 potions. So I crafted Nightshade Nostrum 10 times there, and I ended up with 14 potions. Let's do it again, but with the ghastly experience. Okay, so at that time, okay, I didn't know that was a thing. That time I crafted ghastly experience 10 times, but like on the first or second craft, I got 3 potions from 1 craft. So I guess you have a really small chance to get 3 potions rather than 1 or 2. So anyway, point is, you get like around 50% more potions. So that's cool, it saves resources. Next we have Morning Glory 1. Begin the journey of revival with butterflies and moths. So unlocking this, you unlock a craft in Wendy's tab, which is you can craft butterflies and you can craft moon moths. So these are, you can craft the alive versions of both of these using the dead version of them. Basically, you will want to make these alive again at some point with the later skills, but just for now, you can just know that you can have Abigail riled up at the base and she'll kill a bunch of butterflies during the day. Then you can pick them up and turn them into alive butterflies for later, which you might want. And otherwise, it just allows you, oh my goodness, butter. It allows you to just recycle dead butterflies into alive ones. So that'll be come in handy later. Next, we have Morning Glory 2. Surround yourself in ghostly nature and taste the power of elixirs, even if not fully. So what this does is with 6 Morning Glory, you can craft a helmet. This helmet does spoil after some time. And what this helmet does is you can drink potions. So drinking the potions have different effects, like much different than it when you apply it to Abigail. So Nightshade Nostrum just gives you night vision. So I drink that, then I'm gonna skip a day. And you can see it's still active. Very cool. So it lasts a bit more than a day. And yeah, you just get night vision. This is literally just moggles. This is really handy, but you have to keep the helmet on. If you take the helmet off and then put it back on, the potion is gone. So even if there was time left on it, your helmet has to stay on all the time. If your helmet comes off, all of your effects get deleted. So what does Revenant Restorative do? Well, you drink it and it will just regen you 1 health per second. So I went from 75 health to 116, so that's 41 health. Yeah, so regenerates 41 health, and it's very cheap because, you know, 1 spider gland. Then the Spectral Cure-All heals you for 100 health quite rapidly, so it's 5 health per second until it regens you 100 health, so I should end up at 130 health. Again, all this still, you still have to obey the, you have to keep the helmet on. If you take it off, it cancels the effect, and the effect won't be there when you re-equip it. So there you go, 100 health quite rapidly. The combo with the Special Cure-All and this helmet is actually pretty good, because Special Cure-All costs a Telltale Heart, which only costs 40 health to make. So by doing this, you can effectively mass produce health. For every Telltale Heart you make, you profit 60 health, effectively. So next is Unyielding Draw. This potion got changed, so it's actually quite useful now. Like, it's pretty good. What it does is it blocks up to 50 health every 10 seconds. Get out of here, Abigail. So you see that? The shield tanked that. But now it's on cooldown. So it will tank 1 instance of damage once every 10 seconds, and that block will block up to 50 health. But you still get staggered, you just don't receive the damage. So for example, if I got slapped by Dragonfly, who does 75 damage, the shield blocked 50 of it, and then the 25 overflowed and hit me in the health. And yeah, this lasts for a day, so it's like actually solid. But if you pair it with armor, but bear in mind you can't take the helmet off, so you have to wear body slot armor, then it's actually got a pretty neat interaction with armor. So Dragonfly will slap me. The log suit ate all of the damage, and then the damage that was going to hit my health instead hit my shield. So all your damage will hit your armor first, then it will hit the shield. So even if I'm wearing a grass suit, I still take no damage. The grass suit would have absorbed 45 damage, and then the 30 overflow damage would have just got absorbed by the helmet. Let me just Spectral Cure-All to heal. Oh wait, I applied it to the wrong thing. Gosh darn it, Abigail, eating my heals. So Distilled Vengeance, so it's the exact same effect. It will block up to 50 damage, and when it does block that damage, it does damage back to the attacker. It looks like it just does 2 lots of 20 hit damage back. So Vigor Mortis is actually pretty neat. So normally when you carry something heavy, you move like horrendously slow. Like, look at this. This is unbearable. But if you drink a Vigor Mortis, you actually carry it at a reasonable speed. It's not super fast, but it is a reasonable speed. You could reasonably move all the Lunar Altar pieces with like this. So Ghastly Experience, it's kind of hard to see what it does, but it acts like a booster shot and increases your stats a little bit, as you can see. You shouldn't drink it like this. You shouldn't drink this potion for hunger. Oh my goodness, it's Wagstaff, don't starve. But if you have a max health penalty from dying, then Ghastly Experience acts like a booster shot, so it increases your max health back up to what it should be, like the same as 1 booster shot. That's what that does. Pretty cool. Next, we have Morning Glory 3. You can bring back friends, but only if they've entered the constant, it seems. That last bit is just so that you can't revive Abigail, but you can revive everyone else. And so what this is a character-specific meat effigy, basically. So you have this perennial altar, 10 Morning Glory, 40 health, and 1 cut stone. Then you slap it down, and you become, you see I just became attuned with it. Then if, oh no, the dinosaurs, they're striking again. Oh, it's over. And then you have a little button here saying activate your altar. You also, like the meat effigy, you can be really far away and it will still revive you. And look at this animation. Oh my goodness. Isn't that the cutest thing ever? But Abigail brings Wendy back from the grave. And it brings you back with those stats. Half sanity, 1/3 health, and like 2/3 hunger. Alright, now on to a Vengeful Ghost. This one's kind of goofy. So when Wendy or her friends are killed, their spirit is vengeful and able to wreak havoc on the living world for a short time. I'm gonna need me some Wilsons to back me up here. Just a few Wilsons. And oh no, we've been attacked by a Weber ambush. Oh no! We all died. Oh wait, what the hell? Look at this. We are wreaking havoc, ladies and gentlemen. So you see this little timer in the top right? When you and your friends die, you can you do AoE damage for a short time for 15 seconds, and your damage scales like Abigail scales. So during day you do 15, during dusk you do 25 damage, and during night you do 40 damage. So yeah, it's pretty goofy. Probably won't unlock it because hopefully you won't be dying, but it's pretty goofy. Next we have Grave Beautification. Wendy can adorn graves with flowers to delight their resident spirits. Evil flowers no longer hold fear for Wendy. So now if you just pick just 3 petals. Oh, I forgot to show you something with the with this Ghastly Experience here. So if Abigail dies, you can very quickly just feed her a Spectral Curel, wait for her to heal to full, then apply the Ghastly Experience, and then resummon her. So she can be back in the fight within like 10-15 seconds with Spectral Curels plus Ghastly Experience. You kind of just like force her to be alive at max level. Anyway, sorry. Grave Beautification. So if you decorate a grave with 3 petals, something will happen. You see that you get a Big Spook. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this Big Spook blocks Pip Spooks from spawning. Given that I just, this Pip Spook came from this grave and I just spawned a Big Spook on top of it, that would lead me to assume that, lead me to believe at least, that you can get both from one grave. Because, let me just pick these flowers. Because if you decorated these graves and it blocked Pip Spooks from spawning, then that would be pretty pointless, because what's the point of spawning ghosts? What's the point of, you know, decorating the graves if you can't get Pip Spooks? So as you can see, you can only have 4 Big Spooks active at a time. I just decorated 6 graves, but only 4 of them have spawned. Now, these ghosts used to actually fight with you, but like now if you spawn like a hound, they kind of just don't fight unless they get attacked first. So see there, he attacked a ghost and the ghost attacked the hound. But then if I spawn a hound here, I say Abigail, go kill. You can see the ghosts are like gathering around the thing, but they're not attacking. So right now it seems the only time they attack is if they get attacked, not if you attack something. Like, they sometimes attack, but then sometimes they just don't, so they're kind of inconsistent. But basically, hopefully by release, they will actually attack. So decorating gravestones causes the ghosts to come out and they'll just permanently be active until they die, then they can respawn. Another thing this skill does is, these graves that you've just decorated, they will spawn dark petals slowly. Oh, you see that? An evil flower, another evil flower. I sped up time. So yeah, these decorated gravestones will spawn evil flowers periodically around them. So that means you can just like pick them for dark petals, and they'll just constantly respawn. Oh my goodness. Another dark flower. So yeah, that's what that skill does. Moving on to gravestones by Wendy. Wendy can put to rest the spirits of skeletons with a gravestone, and she can also craft a spirit vessel to invite friendly phantoms to new homes. So this second effect used to be in the first skill, and I don't know why they moved it, because now this first skill just doesn't really do anything, because you can get ghosts out which don't really fight that consistently and spawn evil flowers. Oh yeah. The second part of this effect is evil flowers no longer hold fear for Wendy. What that means, you still suffer the sanity aura from them, but when you pick them, you gain 5 sanity. So yeah, that's what that effect does. So Wendy can put to rest the spirits of skeletons with a gravestone. I'm sorry, Wilson. Abigail must have her sacrifice. See you, idiot. So using 4 dark petals and a cut stone, you can craft a headstone. This headstone, you need to plant it on top of a skeleton. And then you can write whatever you want. Lol noob. There we go. Lol noob. So all that requires is a dead player skeleton. So that means you can just die repeatedly and spawn skeletons, and then you can make headstones. Then you can dig up the grave to get whatever, because this is now an actual normal grave in the game, so now you can dig it up for free loot. Hell yeah. So that's what that one does. That's how you can make new graves, but you can also move existing graves. So if you make the spirit vessel requiring 1 ash and 1 broken shell, I'll show you how to get broken shells in a second, you can pack up any gravestone, like the grave head. You get a cool little animation, and it gets packed away inside the spirit vessel, and then you can plant it wherever you want. And when you release it, it does consume the spirit vessel. So, and it also keeps all of its status of like whether you dug it or not. So yeah, the spirit vessel gets consumed, which is sad. It means you can't like constantly relocate the same grave, or you can, but it just gets a bit expensive. This is actually good, because basically what this means is you're going to use this spirit vessel to move like 4 or so graves to your base, because that way every day you'll hope and pray that one of those graves spawn a pipspook, and then you don't have to go hunting for pipspooks. You'll just have them at your base. So that's the practical use for this, which I think is pretty cool. And of course, once you've moved these graves to your base, you can then just decorate them, and then you can have ghosts, like up to 4 ghosts active permanently around your base, and they are neutral towards you and Abigail, but if hounds attack, like they might help. Like I showed you earlier, they're not super consistent at attacking stuff, but they also make spooky noises, so I don't know if you want that in your base. But yeah, so that's pretty neat. Now, how do you make spirit vessels? 1 ash, you can get that from burning anything, and 1 broken shell. The easiest way, other than going to the caves, of getting broken shell, in my humble opinion, is when you find a message in a bottle in the ocean, it'll reveal where Pearl is. So let's just go, let's go visit Pearl, shall we? Howdy, Pearl. And then you see all these shells that are annoying and make noises every time you go near them. If you hammer them, you will evict the tenant, and then you will get a broken shell. These are all over Pearl's island, and she will give you like loads of these while you do her tasks. So don't worry about smashing these. You'll have plenty of them. And so yeah, that's an easy way to get shells. Or you can go into the caves and kill slurtles and get their broken shells, but that's up to you. You'll make like probably at least 4 just to grab 4 gravestones and bring them to your base just for pipspooks. But yeah, there you go. That's what that does. Now last we have okay, we'll go over these skills. These skills are actually really good. Then we have all the controversial skills. Ooh. So, Team Spirit 1 says, Wendy can remind Abigail she's a ghost, able to be unseen by her enemies and to escape bad situations. This skill is really, really, really good. So, at a glance, you now unlock another action in Abigail's flower, being escape. And when you press this, she will just come towards you, and see she goes slightly transparent. So that's what that does. It forces Abigail to come to you and follow you. But in practicality, this is what it does. If I spawn 10 spiders, then I tell her she's being attacked by spiders, and I tell her to escape. See that? She instantly de-aggroes the spiders, instantly de-aggroes them, and then runs away. Now this is really powerful, because you can make bosses, you can make their behavior, like, you can just mess up bosses' behaviors like really easy with this. If anything targets Abigail, you can use escape, which will confuse the boss and make it target no one, and it'll probably go limp for a second before targeting you. So Ancient Guardian, for example. See that? Abigail got the last hit because, of course, I ran away to dodge it and Abigail kept attacking, so she got hit by it. That's not good. So we attack, blah blah blah. You start running, oh, it's gonna target Abigail. You press escape and he just de-aggroes. but then because you're in his arena, he instantly targets you again. So this way you can just do way more attacks than you usually could, because you just stay there, because Abigail will get the last hit, then before he charges, use escape. In that case, he was still targeting me, so he ran into the rock. What an idiot. And again there, he was targeting Abigail, and now he's just kind of sat there, not doing anything. And see that? You can just constantly de-aggro him, and he just kind of gets confused. So he's about to charge, you hit escape, oh, and he just gets confused. So he just does his melee attack and then just does nothing. It's quite funny. So that is to say that escape is very simple but super effective at manipulating boss behavior. Moving on to Team Spirit 2. Abigail can dash to anywhere. Wendy needs reinforcements. So let's unlock that one. So you've unlocked the attack at command. Now what this does, other than it sends her in a direction like that. And the range of this is basically your entire screen. So if I try to send her to like the top left of my screen, Wendy will probably move a little bit before targeting there. There you go, that's about the range. It's like pretty decent range. So if I clicked all the way to the right, I only have to move a little bit, and then Abigail will go there. But otherwise, while she is traveling, you can see that she is attacking. See if I just spawn a humble 100 spiders. I can send Abigail over there, and she will hit all of the ones in her way as she travels there. And then if you have her riled up at the same time, once she arrives, she will continue attacking whatever is there. But otherwise, you can make her dash through anything, and she will, you know, do a lot of damage. But it's neat for just getting her out of place or in the correct place wherever you want her. And you can control exactly where her AoE is applied. Like if she's about to get hit by something, or you want her to attack as something else, you just dash her away to somewhere else. For the most part, this will be useful during like boss fights like Toadstool, where you want to get her out of the way. So you do the attack at command just to pull her out of the way. Or you just use escape. But yeah, this is a really good skill, very versatile, definitely a good unlock. Team Spirit 3 says Abigail can use her powers as a spooky ghost to scare and haunt things. So what this does, it unlocks the final two commands, being scare, wow, and haunt. So with scare, if I attack that, then you hit scare. Grr, she scares any mob that can be scared around Abigail, and they stay scared for like what, 6 seconds, something like that. And the cooldown on all of Abigail's skills aren't quite that long, it's like 3 or 4 seconds. So you can constantly scare for free basically, which is neat. I would say this is good against B Queen, except Abigail kills B Queens with normal beats really easy, but for any boss that has minions, the scare command is actually kind of neat. Probably not as useful as escape or attack at. Then she has the haunt at command, which haunts an object where you point her towards, just like as it would haunt if you were a player. When you haunt a level 3 spider nest, there is a chance that it will turn into a spider queen. There we go, level 3 spider den into a spider queen. I'm leaving, I don't want to fight that. So Abigail can haunt anything that a player can, and it does the same effect as if a player haunted it. Like, you know, you can turn pigmen into werepigs, which honestly in the early game this is probably kind of neat. You can haunt the pigman, and it will turn into a werepig. Wow, just like that. Handbat materials acquired. And next, ladies and gentlemen, we have the start of the controversy. Blessed Cistern 1. The chilling aura of death preserves the petals placed in the cistern for longer. Oh my goodness. Wendy can make a cistern highway, baby. And when she makes the cistern, she can place 4 petals in it. And what does that do? That's right, it gives you a sanity aura. So you see when you stand near it, you get quite a decent sanity aura. And it makes Abigail level up faster if she wasn't already level 3. Like, it doesn't make her instantly level 3, it just makes it so she just levels up a bit faster. And what this skill does is these petals will spoil slower while in here, so they won't spoil as fast. So that is cool. Anyway, moving on. Wendy's resistance to scary things is increased, and she grants some of that confidence to others nearby. Wendy already has a sanity modifier such that she like loses less sanity from lots of things in the game. This just cranks it up even more, or cranks it down even more, so she loses even less sanity, and people around her lose less sanity as well. It's kind of whatever. But then we have the big one, Blessed Cistern 3, and this one I don't fully agree with, but here we go. Loon Dream Blossoms draw Abigail's humanity closer to the constant. She becomes more resistant to the giants like the rest of the survivors, but her ghostly healing effects are slowed while she is summoned. So what this means is, so how to activate this? Once you plug 4 Moontree Blossoms in, oh my goodness, look, Abigail gets a new animation and it's really cool. So yeah, What this skill actually does is it gives Abigail the player tag, which means she counts as a player for when she receives damage. And so if you didn't know, if you're a mob and you get hit from a giant, usually you take about double damage than what a player would. So for example, Deerclops will hit mobs, including Abigail, for 150 health, but only deal 75 health to the player. But with this skill, Abigail gets the player tag, so she only gets dealt player damage. So now Deerclops will do 75 damage rather than 150. See, that's 75 damage. And as soon as I take the Loon Tree Blossom out, bam, 150 damage. Goodness gracious. But then there's a second effect. So that effect is pretty cool. But wait, why is there a second effect here? It says her ghostly healing effects are slowed while she is summoned. So this is where, like, I don't really agree with it. But so you've got one part of the skill that makes it so she takes less damage. But then you have a skill which makes it so the healing is less effective. And when I say healing less effective, what I mean is all the healing potions heal her for half the amount that they would otherwise with this skill enabled. So now Abigail's down to 200 health. And so normally a Spectral Cure heals for 600 health. But now, even though she's not in combat, it's literally because this skill is active and I have met the conditions, which are 4 Loon Tree Blossoms in there. She receives less damage, so half the damage, but she also heals for half the damage, or heals for half the health. So this potion will only heal for 300 health rather than 600. She takes half damage, but she heals for half the amount. That's like a net zero. So I've kind of explained this before on stream, but basically she takes half damage, which is good, but by only healing half the amount, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? Because if she's taking 600 damage, you then have to heal that 600 damage back. With that skill enabled, that turns it down to 300 damage that she would take, but then you still have to heal her for 300 health. You know what I mean? The only time you benefit from this skill is if, one, you just planned to never heal Abigail anyway, at which point she takes half the damage and then she dies anyway. All the way around this is during a fight, once she drops to low health, you can unsummon her and then you can apply a healing potion to her. So now that Abigail's taken a bunch of damage, you could technically pause the fight and then apply the Spectral Cure to Abigail and then, I guess, distract the boss while she heals. Because this way, you get the full healing benefit, because the healing negative only applies while Abigail is actually just summoned. But, like, this is kind of really stupid, because you have to, like, pause the entire fight, wait for Abigail to heal, and then summon her back. At which point, yeah, you've probably taken a bit of damage yourself. So I don't really like this skill. So I don't really like this skill unless, like I said, if you're like someone who just doesn't heal Abigail anyway, then you benefit from enabling this skill because yeah, if you never plan to heal her, then she effectively can just take more damage from giants before she dies. But how I see this is it takes 3 points to get reduced damage, but then her healing gets reduced anyway. So if, for example, you're making Abigail a face tank Fuel Weaver, whether you're using this skill or not, she'll still consume the same amount of healing potions. You just use 3 skill points, and you still have to use the same amount of healing potions. So, like, I don't see the point. Otherwise, what it does do, it does reduce the volatility of Abigail's health. So when if she fights a boss, like against Deerclops, without the skill, she takes 150 damage every time, so she'll die in 5 hits. Whereas with the skill, it'll take her like 10 hits to die, so it means you have more time to react to apply the healing potion. But otherwise, not a fan of these skills. Anyway, let's move on to the affinities. So we're going to start with the Lunar affinity. So let's do the Lunar affinity. So the first one says Abigail attunes with lunar energies and earns some planar defense. So she's lunar aligned and she gets some planar defense. That's kind of whatever. Then we get Lunar Sisterhood 2. Wendy can craft a super elixir infused with lunar energy that gives Abigail a boost of planar damage for its duration. Super elixirs work in parallel to regular elixirs. So this is actually pretty good. This potion requires Morning Glory and a Pure Brilliance to make. Pure Brilliance you can only achieve once you've activated like the rifts on the overworld, but besides that, got the trusty damage dummy here that'll tell us DPS, and I'm holding this staff, but it doesn't do any damage, so yeah. So as you can see, Abigail does 15 damage per hit, and she attacks once per second. But once you apply a Luminous Wrath, she does 25 damage. So that means her damage has been changed to, she gets 10 extra planar damage per hit. And this is a super elixir, so it counts, you can see it's on a different slot for Abigail. So like normal elixirs, they get applied there. So you can have a regular elixir and a super elixir at the same time. And this lunar potion is a super elixir. So as you can see, Abigail's doing 50 damage. That's 40 damage from the nighttime damage with the Nightshade Nostrum, and 10 damage on top of that is planar from the potion. So she gets 10 extra damage for free with this potion, and that 10 damage is planar. That's pretty decent. 10 DPS added to Abigail's damage. So it's area of effect. That's pretty neat. Next on the lunar alignment says Lunar Sisterhood 3. Wendy can use the moon dial during a waxing or full moon to fill Abigail with lunar energy, turning her into a gestalt. The moon dial can restore her ghost status during a waning or new moon. So if you have a moon dial, alright, now we are in a waxing state. So right now the moon is waxing because, you know, the full moon is coming, so it's waxing. So you can mutate Abigail either on a waxing moon, so before the full moon, or during the full moon itself. And then when it's waning, you can use this again to unmutate her. And waning is just the 10 days after the full moon has happened. So between full moon and new moon, rather than between new moon and full moon. And what this has done is it's changed Abigail into Gestalt. This changes quite a few things. Well, it changes a few things. So now, when she attacks, she does one big hit. So she is doing 450 damage. Have they buffed that? I could have sworn it was less than that. Okay, that's pretty good. So Abigail does 450 damage now. This is the best she can do. This is Nightshade Nostrum, so she's doing maximum nighttime damage, and she has the Lunar Potion. So when she's in this form, you can see she attacks a lot slower, and she only does a single target attack. And with these controls, let me just unlock them real quick. This attack at command, it no longer hits anything when she charges in a direction. So if you try to charge through things like birds or spiders, she will not hit them. So that only applies to normal or Shadow Abigail, and Shadow Abigail we'll talk about in a second. And she seems to attack every like 4 seconds. So after 4 seconds, she'll start attacking again. So she'll start gliding back towards the enemy. But otherwise, you can see she kind of tries to kite while she's like cooling off her attack. So her DPS is like at least 100. This damage dummy here is saying that it's 135. And hey, I'm inclined to believe it. So yeah, about 100 or so DPS from Abigail. But it is single target, and this is absolute maximum buffs. If I skip a day, so now both of her potions have ran out, during just daytime she does 200 damage. So that's without nighttime damage and without the Lunar Potion. Then during dusk she does 250 damage, so 200 to 250, and then of course at nighttime she does the 400 damage. And then at nighttime she does 350 damage. This Lunar Potion on Gestalt Abigail adds 100 planar damage to her attack. 100. So she's doing 300 damage, 100 of that is planar damage. So of course, pairing that with Nightshade Nostrum, she does 450 damage. 350 physical and 100 planar. It kind of depends on her kiting pattern, but she can attack as fast as once every 3.5 seconds. I'm like starting a timer off screen every time she hits the enemy, and it's anywhere between 3.5 and like 4 and 4.5 seconds. So like her DPS being reported as 135 on this dummy is actually pretty accurate. And when she does attack, she goes immune for a slight time, and she like kites around, then she comes back and dashes. So let's just delete this and let's spawn a Deerclops. Abigail, this time if you get to low health, I will protect you and I will heal you. So as you can see, it's kind of RNG whether the attacks line up so that she gets hit or not. Whoa, epic dash, she dodged it. It's kind of RNG slash, yeah, it's kind of just not up to you. The timing just falls back into place whenever, you know, it just depends on the boss's attacks lining up with Abigail's attacks, whether she gets hit or not. Go on, Abigail, finish him off. Oh yeah, she kited him so good, she kited away from him, hell yeah! So there you go, Gestalt Abigail just soloed Deerclops. Hell yeah. Sorry, I was reading something. I got caught up reading an email. I love emails. What was I talking about? Yeah, Abigail can solo bosses, which is quite funny. That's Gestalt Abigail, but of course, to get this potion, you need to activate Lunar Rifts, so you have to kill Celestial Champion to be able to get this potion, otherwise her DPS is a bit lower. Her DPS with just Nightshade Nostrum. So without the Luminous Potion, you can see her DPS is being reported at 105, so still over 100 DPS. But let's just do a DPS test real quick. So, imagine you're Abigail and you're Wendy, and you are fighting with Gestalt Abigail. How much damage are you going to do? So I'm just going to hold F with Gestalt Abigail. Gestalt Abigail is buffed to the brim with Nightshade Nostrum and the Luminous Potion, so she is doing all of her damage. As you can see, my DPS, it goes from 307, drops down to 299 for a split second, but then it goes back up to 307 as soon as Abigail attacks. So my DPS realistically is probably just about 300, like just under 307, so about I'll say 305. So just keep that in mind. And now I'll just do the same again, but with full void. I compare full void because full void is really good in the end game, especially against planar enemies. So as you can see, my DPS is slipping between 344 and 299. It's 299, but then when Abigail does the attack, it goes back up to 344. So we're going to go somewhere in the middle. We're going to say the DPS is 320. So there we go. So I'm put those numbers in the chat so that I remember them for later, because now we're going to move on to Shadow Abigail. We've covered Gestalt Abigail. Now we'll talk about Shadow Abigail. So Shadow Sisterhood 1 is Abigail tunes with Shadow and earns planar defense. That means she's Shadow aligned and she gets some planar defense. Then you have Wendy can craft a super elixir infused with shadow magic that increases Abigail's vex damage. So this is the Shadow super elixir, Cursed Vexation. You'll notice this one requires pure horror to make. Now if you didn't know, you can acquire pure horror way faster than pure brilliance because you can kill Nightmare Werepig. So with just the existence of Nightmare Werepig, this potion is way more accessible. So what does this potion do? Well, when you apply it, Abigail gains the super elixir, and when you punch, you'll see that you can see when I punch, you see like the black vex that comes off of the target. So what's happening there? When I attack, the normal damage multipliers of Abigail apply, which is 1.1 and 1.4. But then on top of that, I get 10 planar damage added to my attack. So if I attack with just Abigail normally, I do 78.5 damage, 78.5 with her Vex active. So that's my normal damage. But with Cursed Vexation, I go up to 88.5. So that is to say, just any attack I do, it grants 10 planar damage flat on top of whatever I do. So this was one of the big changes they did yesterday, and after much consideration, it's a very good change. I'll have to explain why, but let's go over all the skills first, and then I'll go over this last skill, and then I will talk about why this Cursed Vexation potion is the change is pretty huge. But otherwise, for now, for every one of your attacks, it adds a flat 10 planar damage on top of whatever you did. Otherwise, Abigail's damage doesn't change. She's still doing 15 damage. And you can, of course, give her Nightshade Nostrum at the same time. So she does the 40 damage. That's her normal damage. That's 40 physical damage. Then whenever I attack, I'm doing my normal damage plus 10 planar damage. So yeah, there you go. That's what that potion does. We'll DPS test in a second once we unlock this. So this last one is Dark Magic's release whenever Wendy uses the murder action, filling Abigail with more power for a short time. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you want to unlock this skill. Because you can revive butterflies and then you can murder them to activate this skill. When you have a loon tree right here, oh that's a small one. When you have loon trees from Lunar Island and you cut them down, you get the loon butterflies, and these trees don't drop pine cones, they drop the butterflies, and you can replant the alive butterflies to get to grow these trees. But you need Morning Glory and you need the Moon Moth Wings. So that's why this crafting recipe exists. With 4 Morning Glories and a Moon Moth Wing, you can create the live butterfly, which you then can plant to get more of these loon trees. So that's why that crafting recipe exists. So you can imagine, like, you're sat at the base in Abigail, you set her to aggressive so she's constantly killing butterflies, and then you get like 20 butterfly wings and you turn them all into alive butterflies. When you do this and you murder one, oh my goodness, Shadow Abigail is born. This Shadow Abigail simply just gets a flat 25 planar damage added on top of all of her other damage. And as you can see, she's gone back to normal. So for every one thing that you murder, she gains, I think, 8 seconds of this buff of whatever damage she does, it just adds 25 planar damage on top of it. So with Nightshade Nostrum and murdering a butterfly, she's doing 65 damage per second. That's 40 physical and 25 planar. She stops attacking because of the meat effigy. It's not because she's broken or anything, it's just what the meat effigy does. So yeah, that's what that does. So now let's do a quick DPS test, shall we? And of course, this duration of her double damage, it stacks. If you murder 20 things, you get 160 seconds of the buff. So she has Cursed Vexation, she has Nightshade Nostrum, and she has double damage from me murdering things. So my DPS is 259? Looks like it. 259, 253. Again, no animation cancelling, because I know a lot of you don't animation cancel. And there you go. The DPS is 259 with Abigail consistently attacking. So 259. Shadow Abigail is actually doing less damage than Gestalt Abigail overall with me attacking. But 65 of this 259 DPS is area of effect, whereas Gestalt Abigail, all of her damage is single target. So it kind of makes sense that her single target DPS is better than Shadow Abigail. this didn't used to be the case. It used to be the case that Shadow Abigail was just better than Gestalt Abigail in just like every way. She had AoE and her single target damage was better, but they have changed things. So yeah, let me just do a DPS test with the Void stuff. So with full Void and buffed Shadow Abigail, my DPS is sitting at 290, sometimes hopping up to 296. Oh yeah, 296 with a consistent attacking. Okay, cool. So as you can see, with the Gestalt Abigail and Shadow Abigail, when you're using full Void, it closes the gap a bit, but when you're using a Dark Sword, Gestalt Abigail is quite a bit better, like pretty significantly. But of course, Gestalt Abigail loses her area of effect. Now, the last test and the biggest change was that to Beefalo. Now, nothing directly changed with Beefalo. If you didn't know, there used to be, well, there still is, an interaction with Beefalo. So first I have to explain Wendy's mechanics a little bit. Wendy by default has a 0.75 times damage multiplier, but when she's fighting with Abigail and her Vex is applied to the enemy, Wendy will gain a 1.4 times damage multiplier. So Abigail's Vex are those red flowers, okay? So when those red flowers are on the enemy and Wendy attacks that enemy, her damage is multiplied by 1.4. And then there's also another buff where if anything attacks something with a Vex on it, they gain 1.1 times damage multiplier. So Wendy with a Dark Sword, her damage would be 68 multiplied by 0.75, which is her default damage modifier. That reduces her damage down to 51. 51. So that 51 damage then gets multiplied by 1.4 and then 1.1, both of those because of the Vex, and that pushes the damage up to 78.54. But then with the Shadow Potion, on Abigail, I get plus 10 planar damage, so it goes to 88. So with Beefalo, when you attack with Beefalo while riding as Wendy, this still counts as Wendy damage. So all of the Beefalo's damage is buffed by Abigail's Vex. But the Beefalo does not have a negative damage multiplier like Wendy, so it's very clear that that 1.4 times damage multiplier I was talking about is literally only there so that when Wendy is fighting with Abigail, she does normal damage. Because 0.75 multiplied by 1.4 equals 1.05, which is 5% more damage than Wilson. So it's very clear that what that Vex is meant to intend is when Wendy is fighting with Abigail, she does normal damage. But by using a Beefalo, who doesn't have a 0.75 damage multiplier, it's just a 1 times multiplier, what happens is you get your Beefalo damage, and then that gets multiplied by 1.4 and then multiplied by 1.1, which leads to something like this. You've got the Beefalo doing 111 damage per hit. This Beefalo with this saddle without Abigail only does 66 damage. So with Abigail, Abigail almost doubles this guy's damage. It goes up to 111. That is a huge buff for Beefalo. To make this even more powerful, this potion used to crank up those damage multipliers I was talking about from 1.4 to 1.6 and 1.1 to 1.3. What this led to is your Beefalo doing a ton of damage. You would do the 66 damage that the Beefalo does, multiplied by 1.6, then multiplied by 1.3, leading your Beefalo to do 137 damage per hit. 137. That is insane. That is over double what the Beefalo's damage is actually meant to be. That was with the old Shadow Potion. And so with that really high damage number and with animation cancelling and with Abigail, you could achieve over 400 DPS. And to put that into perspective, Wanda, animation cancelling with her watch, only does 342 DPS. So Wendy was better than Wanda at DPS with the old potion, and some of that DPS was area of effect because it came from Abigail. But now they changed it, so the damage multipliers are back down to 1.4 and 1.1, and instead it adds, like I said, plus 10 flat planar damage on top of all of your attacks. The plus 10 planar damage buff on top of your attacks have made it so that Wendy with actual gear scales up a lot harder than her on a Beefalo. So let me just apply all of the potions and do a quick DPS test. And as you can see, my DPS is sitting at 265. This is without animation cancelling, to be fair, but 265 nonetheless. Let's just give it the best chance and say 265. Now if you compare that to the rest of the numbers, you can see even Wendy with a Dark Sword and buff Shadow Abigail is almost the same as a War Saddle Beefalo with Shadow Abigail. And so imagine all these numbers except what the Beefalo used to achieve over 400 DPS. So like you can kind of see the Beefalo used to be super OP. So overall what this means now is that if you tame a Beefalo as Wendy, it's still good, it's still perfectly good, but like it isn't like leaps and bounds better than not using a B-Flow. And by the way, if you don't have if you don't have like Abigail applying a Vex, then a B-Flow is still better than using Wendy, because of course Wendy has a damage multiplier that makes her damage get sad. Except if you're using the Void Scythe, because the Void Scythe has planar damage, and planar damage is not affected by physical damage multipliers. So I do 78 damage per hit. Now, if you don't have this Cursed Vexation potion, things are just a little bit different. So without Cursed Vexation, my damage on a B-Flow was 247, and off a B-Flow it's 268. So yeah, so when you have your endgame gear is actually just better than a B-Flow now, which I think that is the way to be. So it's better than a B-Flow, and if you're against a planar target, it's even better because most of your damage is planar. So this is all to say that basically Wendy with actual gear like Void Gear and Dark Swords have been brought up to the level of a B-Flow and even surpassed it in some circumstances. So overall, these changes I think are good, what they've done to the Shadow Abigail. Now, Shadow versus Lunar Abigail. It's kind of up to you now, because they've actually done kind of like what I wanted. They've buffed Gestalt Abigail so that she's not terrible, and yeah, they're both just really strong now, because you can just need to look at these numbers. Gestalt Abigail buffed with Full Void or a Dark Sword is 305 and 320 DPS. Then the same scenarios, but with Shadow Abigail, you get 259 and 296 DPS. But of course, Shadow Abigail does Area of Effect. So I guess the question is, if you know you don't need Area of Effect damage, then Gestalt Abigail is just a bit better, because not only will she do better DPS, but she will dodge the enemy, kind of, sometimes maybe, but she also flies around everywhere, so she might be a bit harder to control. But to get Gestalt Abigail to that level of damage, you do need her potion. So that is to say, in the early game, you can get Shadow Abigail's potion, because you can kill Nightmare Werepig, but you cannot get Luminous Wrath. Unless you rush Celestial Champion, but Celestial Champion usually takes like at least your first autumn to rush, especially as like Wendy. So you're not getting Luminous Wrath anytime soon. So I think what this boils down to is like, you probably are going to start with Shadow Abigail, because you can get this potion so much faster. And otherwise, if you're sure you only need single target damage, Gestalt Abigail's where it's at. But if you kind of want Area of Effect, then Shadow Abigail is totally worth it. She's got slightly less overall DPS, but yeah, Area of Effect is pretty invaluable, like it's pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with both versions of Abby now. Like I said before, the Shadow Abigail used to be leaps and bounds ahead of Gestalt Abigail, and then B-Flow used to be leaps and bounds above Wendy's personal damage. But now it's balanced so that like Wendy's personal damage is better than using a B-Flow. So I think it's pretty well balanced now. I'm pretty happy with Wendy's skill tree, other than for some reason they put Spirit Vessel onto this skill, and it used to be on this skill. So now, like, you don't get anything from this skill, and you get everything from this skill. So I think those should be split apart again. At best, I think this skill just reduces Abigail's health's volatility, but I don't know how valuable that is. I'd probably rather just not unlock this skill and have 3 skill points left over, which is a shame, because when you do have this unlocked, you get some pretty cool animations, because Abigail turns into Human Abigail, which is cool. Like that, it's pretty cute. Recommended skill tree time. But overall, I am pretty happy that I know that a lot of beginners play Wendy, and I didn't really want to do Wendy boss rush with a B-Flow, because I know that people will sometimes watch my boss rushes as kind of guides to how to play the character. And I didn't really want to have to tame a B-Flow, because I know a lot of people struggle with taming B-Flow. So I am very happy that they made it so that Wendy has been her power level has been brought up to match B-Flow, and sometimes even surpass it. Anyway, skill tree time. Oh, I just looked. I don't actually have the skill enabled, but she's still turning into the cute Abigail, even though I don't have this enabled. Huh. I would always unlock these Pip Scoop Book quests, Picnic Basket, and Ghastly Experience. Morning Glory to make butterflies is good. I would start with Shadow Abigail, but you would consider switching to Gestalt Abigail later on, when you need like the big planar damage, I think, potentially. But I think Shadow Abigail early on, just because you can access this potion way earlier than this potion. Grave Purification is cool. I kind of want to have graves at my base, so that I can have Pip Spooks at the base, so I would unlock both of these just to get the Spirit Vessel. If they put Spirit Vessel back onto this skill, then I would only unlock this skill. All of the commands are very good, so I'll unlock at least both of these two, and potentially unlock this last one if you would like. And now it's up to you what you want. You could unlock Morning Glory 2 to be able to drink potions. It does take up your head slot when you have a potion active, so the shield potion is good, but it completely blocks out your helmet slot. So I don't know, man. But otherwise, special cure rules are very good. And also, when you turn butterflies into alive butterflies, then you murder them to activate Shadow Abigail, you just got like 20 butterfly wings in your inventory, which is like 160 healing, which is very notable. So this skill is also good for that. It's like 2-in-1. It gets you healing food and it gets you Shadow Abigail, or you can just recycle the butterfly wings into into like the next time you need Shadow Abigail. This skill is cool. It turns potions with 1 duration to 2, and then this one makes it so you make basically 50% more potions. So the last bit's kind of up to you. If you want to unlock the maximum amount of content, you would unlock this and you would unlock this, but I don't know if I'm a fan of this, so I might go for both of these, but ultimately both of these just save resources. There's no boss fight that takes longer than 8 minutes, except like Misery Toadstool. So when you go to enter a boss and you give Abigail Nightshade Nostrum, it will last 2 days, but the boss will be dead by the end of the first day, so you probably don't need it. Unless you're running around the base and you just constantly want Abigail to be under the effect of Nightshade Nostrum, then this will save you on resources, but that's all these two skills do. They just save on resources, they don't unlock anything new. You can see that I don't have enough skills to unlock this one, and that's because of the Grave Beauty, and that's because of Spirit Vessel being on this one. So yeah, I probably will skip this skill because it, like I said, it's kind of a net 0. Yeah, so honestly, I haven't decided. So I think the skill tree is decent because you do have to actually make some decisions and some sacrifices. For the content, I think I will unlock this and this. But if you're not a fan of this, and I don't think this is very necessary, then I would just unlock these two skills to save resources. Or you could sacrifice one of the grave skills to unlock this one. But again, this is kind of a net 0 skill, so I'm not a fan of it. So this is probably the recommended skill tree. Unless, again, you like this skill, then get rid of this skill, and this skill, and then unlock these 3. So there you go. I think that is all of the skill trees. Otherwise, make sure to go to the forums and say, good job, Clay. I really love Wendy's skill tree. And yes. So yeah, honestly, let me know what you think about the skill trees. Let me know what you agree with and what you don't agree with. I believe they're doing some changes to Wobie at some point. Honestly, I don't know what they would do, but if they make it better than a Beefalo, then you might not want to train a Beefalo, but that's kind of not a huge deal. I think Wobie is totally fine, totally okay to use Wobie instead of a Beefalo. Yeah, anyway, alright, I think I've covered everything. I'm gonna go edit this video now. I just came back from swimming at the beach and my feet, they're so cold. DPS, go. Abigail, I need you to stand real close. Look at it go. Yes, I've got my over 400 DPS back. Yes, yeah, yes, yes, yes. I've achieved 600 DPS. No, stop bouncing off birds. Yes. I think we've hit 570 or 580 DPS or something. That's amazing.